Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Botch TV, and I'm here with FightMikes. He is of the Smackdown Hotel. He is a content creator himself on WWE 2K. He just started he just did his season finale of his EFED. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Correct. And sorry when I couldn't be on camera today. My chair is broken, so I'm in between sitting on my bed, sitting on the floor, and standing up. So it's everywhere right now. It sucks. I just ordered a new chair, so hopefully I'll get a new chair soon. So I'm typically on camera, but hey, what is this? Gotta make it work. So as correct, I'm botching to the great intro there. My name is Mike. I recently started contributing with the Smackdown Hotel. It's actually really cool. I had a fanboy moment yesterday. Actually, really legit. What's his name? One of the YouTubers. I actually gotta pull him up here. Macho, of course. Macho T actually had an article last night talking about universe most concerns, something we're going to talk about here, new features and more. In that article, in that YouTube video, dude went over all the confirmed championships for 2K22. I'm watching the video to see, and I'm realizing my man took snips from my own article and used it, which again is no big deal. I didn't get any kind of recognition for it and asked for it. Obviously, it's a guide that I put on the website. But that is so freaking cool that I'm seeing my article on a YouTuber who I've watched for years talk about news, updates, and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Then along with that, yes, I am a content creator over on Twitch. I used to create UFC content, strictly MMA content, MMA universe. That I've migrated over to a WWE 2K universe, kind of my own little EFED of the same name, PWC or Paradise World Cage Fighting of the same name in WWE 2K. We just finished up our first season finale. Someone got shot. Cole Quinn got shot in the background during our co-main event of the evening. So we're going to work on getting to that storyline here in 2K22. I'm hyped for that. We have a few other things rolling, a few of the mysteries to roll with. But been creating content with overall for a couple years now with 2K. About 4 months, 5 months now. We've been kind of working with the WWE 2K series, so it's been an awesome adventure so far. We're starting to really build, starting to learn more about the 2K community, the wrestling community overall. Um, I think one of the big things that I'm actually going to start addressing and kind of changing my wording. Uh, for the longest, it's always been the WWE 2K community. I think with AEW having a game coming out, with what's it called, the other wrestling games coming out, with Wrestling Empire actually getting some sort of steam, and a few of the other games coming out, it's becoming a wrestling community, a wrestling gaming community, and not just a WWE 2K community, which I think is exciting because Botch, I think I know WWE 2K is not everyone's cup of tea, and regardless
Yes,
of how much the
yeah,
game has, there are certain things that it doesn't have, or certain things that people just don't want to support for whatever it may be. They don't want to support it, and that's fine. The great thing is that there's options, which I think the biggest thing. I personally am honest. I've never watched AEW, but I think the biggest thing with AEW is it's bringing out options, not just in what you watch, consume, and where wrestlers work. You're getting another game out of this that people can actually play, and that, from what it sounds like, AEW is putting some money into this. So it's not going to be a TNA Impact situation where their game release, it did not do well at all, and then the developer just went out of business, and that was it. I
right.
think this is going to be a big deal.
Tony Khan actually put like 4 million, 5 million or something into it. Like it's pretty insane. And this is of his money. Like,
Exactly, and
so
I think
if he loses out on it, that's his own thing. But,
I
you know,
and I'm not sure if he will. Well, I think I can't tell the future again. You never know with the future. I think that, um, you know, I think with the fact that he has people like Kenny Omega again. Never really watched his work outside. Obviously, if you're in some sort of wrestling bubble, you should know who Kenny Omega is. But I do know the dude has a lot of passion for video games. And has a lot of passion for this wrestling game, along with the fact that it's Ukes. It looks like they're using parts of the Ukes engine that the SmackDown series used for so long, which already has that familiarity, along with their passion. I think it's going to be a big deal. I think the AEW game is going to be big, not just for AEW personally, but I think for the wrestling community as a whole.
I think it's going to be a pretty damn big thing. Speaking of wrestling games, so let's get to what everybody obviously knows the 2K games for, and that is Universe Mode. Universe Mode being one of the most popular content created, user generated content tools for content creators like myself and FightMikes to use to create content that we love to put out there to you guys. So, since FightMikes is my guest, I'm going to have him kind of talk about his universe mode, how he utilizes certain tools like Google Docs as a document to keep track of win-loss records, and a bunch of other things that he does in his universe mode. Because, like with any universe mode, it's different every single time. It doesn't matter who you see streaming WWE 2K on Twitch, Glimish, whatever platform you're on. It's different every time, and that's what I think is good.
So. Sounds like Glimish. From what I've seen, I think Glimish is your house over there. So we're gonna talk
Yep.
about the Twitch. Let's talk about the Twitch kind of views of what people are going on there, and then I'll obviously touch on mine. So Universe Mode, I think is not just a popular mode. I think for replayability, it is, if not first, the second most important mode in the game. I've been doing Universe Mode and stuff like that since like the old Smackdown games. I actually loved, and I'll segue to it and say I love that my GM's coming back, but not the way I wanted to. But I've been a fan of using feds, using stuff like that. I played my GM from the SVR 06, 07, 08 days. I loved 08's GM mode. And then you had that moment for SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 and even 2010 to an extent where you didn't have any modes. 11 comes, they introduce Universe Mode. Really wacky, really crazy, but it gave me ideas to kind of run my own story, and I always did it in the background. I used to release weekly stories and stuff like that in 2010, but for SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, they released this mode that kind of lets you kind of has it's the cliche. Obviously, it's a ripoff of what WWE calls their fans, which is the universe, the WWE universe, but it's a wrestling universe. I can do whatever I want, which I loved about the fact and how it's evolved over the years. I think 2K19 really was the top of where it is. You can create your own championships, create your own arenas, create your own shows, create your own characters, obviously, and then Universe Mode is kind of the gel that sticks it all in because you can throw all of it into the pot and create your own show. And that's what I did with my Universe Mode. I came in at first just kind of doing matches, inspiring it from where my MMA league was at, which is matches. Win-loss records are very serious. To kind of expanding a little bit and going with stories and building a unique thing, which is what my Universe Mode went through was we're building on stories. And I think that's the biggest thing is to build on stories, not just have matches. But match after match after match, that can get repetitive for anyone who's playing Universe, especially when you're a content creator. If you just match and match and match, it can get repetitive. But I think the beautiful thing about Universe Mode is there's ways to add story to it, where they use even the pre-built stories, which they ain't that bad if you just know how to work them. They ain't that terrible with the cutscenes, to combining it with highlight reel and all the other things going on there. I think it's a real awesome thing. But just to circle back to my universe mode, I want to build it unique. So what I did is instead of doing what I saw other people doing, which is not, I wouldn't say unoriginal, but there is a sense of a format that a lot of people use, where you have your world championship, you have your mid card championship, you have your tag team, and you have your women's division. I kind of built it off a little differently, where you have a world champion, but then for us, you have continental champions. You have the continental champion of the Eastern Hemisphere, continental champion of the Western Hemisphere. The only way you can become a world champion is you have to hold one of the continental championships. That's the only way to become the world champion. There is no other way around it. You have to earn yourself, and the way you can become a continental champion is you have to fight in the division based on where you're from. So if you're from, let's just say, Japan, you fight for the Eastern Continental Championship, you're in that division. Say you're from Canada, nah, you gotta fight for the Western Continental Division and for the Western Continental Championship. And then it's kind of but you remember the TNA, I think they still do the option C thing where you trade in the X Division Championship for a World Championship match.
Yeah, the option C for option Impact. C.
Yeah. So I always keep news on that. I've never really watched TNA, but I always keep my eye on the news. The idea actually inspired from that, where you're actually able to use your your opportunity at a championship, you have a choice. Do you want to have a long, dominant reign as the Continental Champion, or do you want to give up your Continental Championship for a shot at the World Champion? That's kind of the concept. That's where I got it from. Is again the Continental Champion. Now you have a choice, whether it's one of the characters I created or whether it's one of the characters that people bring in from community creations, whatever it may be. If you're the Continental Champion, you have a choice. Do I keep my belt or do I go and trade in and try to become the world champion with the risk that if I lose that world championship match, now I no longer have the Continental Championship and I lost the world championship match, so I kind of got to start from the bottom and move myself back up.
I do really like that. I really think that that's very, very different, especially what you mentioned with the Continental Championships. How, like, somebody actually has to earn that title first before they can challenge for the world title. I think that that's something I've never seen before, and I've watched a lot of universe modes, over time on YouTube, Twitch, everywhere, and that's definitely something that I've never ever seen before. And I love how you use the aspect of divisions and actually putting the person in a division, because I never really did that. I just kind of did. I have divisions, but I never like did it in the game per se. The way I did mine was when I started mine, it was 2K18. It was right towards the end of the cycle of 2K18. So right around, it was August 21st, 2018 was my first episode of RCW. That was my first one. And so that was season 1. I thought, personally, I was in college for music recording technology. I wanted to be a music producer. That's what I wanted to do. Because I never thought in my mind, due to, my disability, my brain injury, that I could ever be anything in the wrestling industry, because I didn't know about producing. I didn't know about general managers. I didn't know about the behind the scenes stuff that occurs, and all that. I didn't really pay attention to the Paul Bearers of The Undertaker or the Paul Heymans to Brock Lesnar's and that type of thing. But I don't think it was until like season 2 or season 3 of RCW when I started making the Outlaws, and I made Brian Outlaw, Luna Outlaw, Sky Outlaw, Jack Outlaw, and all these other characters that were based on my real life, that I started thinking, you could take that and turn that into a real thing. It was actually because of streaming that I actually switched colleges and went back to a college that was closer to where I was living at the time for a different degree. And I ended up graduating with that said degree. And now I'm the co-owner of my own wrestling promotion that's going to be here in my hometown. And actually, as of a few days ago, there's a guy that owns a local auto shop near me that actually said that he wanted to invest about $1,000 into our business in exchange for free advertisement. So basically, and as of January 29th, 2022, I'm officially signed to a wrestling company. I signed a contract, I put ink to paper, and it's there. But the craziest thing is, when I created Brian Outlaw, he was the only character that I was going to do. And I didn't do the promo. I did the promo engine. I did the generic promo engine in the game. I didn't start voice acting and doing my own promos and doing it through Audacity, which is a free digital audio workstation. It's a free digital audio program that you can use to edit and download, edit and download audio. And so, pretty much the stuff that I do in my universe mode, anybody can do. I actually do have YouTube videos on my channel. You can enter the command YT in chat, and the bot will send you a link. And so that's stuff on my YouTube channel where I actually show people how to do this stuff. And so it got to the point where I started to think, okay, I can actually do this now. And then once I stopped using the promo engine, and I really started to focus on the show itself, And I started doing promos as him. I had to think, okay, what's he gonna sound like? And so I came up with the voice, and I just started doing. And I had scripts. I had scripts like on my phone and my notes app on my iPhone. So I had scripts, and then I would just go into the voice and just be like, if I were to say hello to Vince, I'd be like, "Hello, Vinny," something like that, or or whatever works, and I would just talk in that voice for however long I had to do the promo. And then it got to the point where I just decided, okay, you're not going to do it scripted anymore. You're just going to go right off the dome and just do it. And that took me about 2 to 3 years to master, because I had to figure out how the character was personality wise. And how I came up with the character was I live by this like moral code, because society today, they try to put you in a box. Like, if you're conservative, you're a horrible person. If you're this, or this or that, or this or that, or whatever, and the other thing. So basically, being an outlaw means that you don't obey laws. And I feel like in society today, we have laws put upon us. Like, not actual laws, like federal laws that could end you up in jail, but not just those, but societal norms. Like, oh, you should act this way and only this way. Like this, the high school cliques. Like, oh, you're a loser or you're a nerd, so you only hang out with those people. And so that's how I came up with the name. I just took my first name, Brian with the Y. I took my first name and I just went with outlaw, because I never wanted to do that. Because I was always put in a box as like the disabled kid. Oh, you're the disabled kid. Guess you're this, and this is what you're going to be for the rest of your life. You're not going to ever amount to anything or anything like that. So I just did that, and I use Brian Outlaw as a way to vent about the stuff in the world that I'm pissed about, or whatever. And so I just turned that and I put that into a wrestling character. And then I took all the other outlaws, like Sky. I'm an only child, so I never had brothers and sisters or whatever, and so I never know what it's like to have that portion of your family. But I created, Sky. I think Sky was the first one that I created. Skylar, she was the first one that I made, and I created her based off the girls that I went to school with. So I made her like the typical high school mean girl. She's a total bitch, but every guy wants to be with her because she's attractive. And that's it. And so and because of that, she lets her personality suffer, because she ends up getting with this like stereotypical football player guy, and his name was Dave. And I actually based him off of one of the exes that I went out with, who was verbally abusive. So I based her abusive domestic violence story off of something that I went through as a 16-year-old kid. But the difference is the viewers didn't know that. I didn't publicly share my story until about a year or so ago. Like, I kept it a secret from my family. I didn't tell anybody. So Sky Outlaw was just the outlet for me to get that out. And eventually I found this app that allowed me to make tweets and text messages for the wrestlers. And I started doing that, and that gave them more personality. But what I do is I play the matches, but I use custom sliders in the game, and I just make up storylines in my head, and I do the play-by-play commentary. So I do the suplex, and then I do the color commentary too. So I essentially do 4 things at once. I'm planning the match in my head as I'm playing it, while commentating it, both the play-by-play and the color commentary, and then everything else just falls into place. So I will say that it's not a one-man wrecking crew, because I have my mods, Young Sin and Sakate, who have made characters, and I obviously had viewers' characters. But I like to create story for my characters. And, the Outlaws were like an outlet for me. So they were kind of like, I kind of view them as not characters anymore. Like, I don't view Brian Outlaw as this character. I view him, he was kind of a person that I wanted to turn into because I was a weakling, you know, in school. I let everybody get to me, you know, that type of thing. And, you know, I'm only 100 pounds. So some 200, 300 pound kid could easily pick me up and throw me and freaking, you know, whatever.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's just how it was. But I wanted to turn into Brian Outlaw, somebody that doesn't give a shit. In the sense that, like, somebody that cares about other people, but in this day and age, Brian Outlaw would be the type of person to get canceled. You know, cancel culture written all over it. He'd be I'm the type of person that I keep it 100. You don't like my opinion, suck it up, deal with it. Don't ask for it then, you know. And so, you know, and I've always lived by the policy, just because you don't want to realize the truth that is sitting in front of you doesn't make it any less true than it is. And that's kind of like with Brian Outlaw, where he's like, I'm going to tell you what I really think. If you hate it, whatever, I don't care. But at some point you're going to be like, oh shit, he was right. And then, you know, Brian Outlaw would just be that type of a dick to say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. But the one thing that he cares about is his family. And so there are storylines that I've done where, so basically I love Paige, the wrestler from England, from WWE. And so the character actually was created because of her, because of Paige. So the year was like 2018, and she was retired. She was a GM of Smackdown. She called herself the boss lady of Smackdown Live. And I love that. And there was this one segment where James Ellsworth was out there, and it was when he was with Carmella and everything and all that. And he starts talking all of his crap, and then Paige comes out and she's like, what are you doing? Like, you know, what are you doing? And, you know, she talks to him or says something to him, and he's like, I know why you're out here. You're out here to ask me out on a date, aren't you? And she kind of like looks at him and caresses his arm, and, you know, there's a little bit of innuendo there. And then she says, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And it was like in a sarcastic manner. And she's like, how does next Tuesday sound? And that was when SmackDown was on Tuesdays. And he got all excited, and she swerves him, and she goes, oh, you're not going to have a date with me. Oh, it's not really a date. It's a match. And your match is going to be with Asuka. And I absolutely love that segment. And I thought to myself, what if it was me out there instead of James Ellsworth? And so I started thinking in my head, what would I say to her during that segment? And I actually told her this idea. Basically, how I would do it is I would come out there, I would talk crap, she would try and stop me. And I would say something like, because she loves Starbucks. So basically, I can take something that somebody likes and turn it against them to be the heel. So, you know, I could, you know, be like, oh, sorry, sweetheart, did you not get your Starbucks this morning? Oh, shit, somebody's mad. Oh, you know, or whatever, you know, and kind of just antagonize her and be the absolute asshole. And then I'd be like, lucky for you, I bought some. And then I would come out with like one of those like styrofoam tray things with, you know, Starbucks cups and everything. And I would get a steel chair out, and I would set up the steel chair and have her a place to sit. And I was like, now you can sit and watch me do my thing. What are you going to do? Suspend me, sweetheart? Oh, wait, no, that's not your job. Vinny does that shit. Like, you know, and like, see, like, that's just something I like pulled out of and that's because I know how her character is. And, you know, so like her and I could get real good chemistry. And there are times where, there's one thing I still have this like as a sound command where she called me a piss stain, and she roasted that shit out of me, and I loved it. I asked her to roast me and just instantly like be mean to me, and it was hilarious. It was funny. But anyways, that's where the character came from, and then after that, I just started taking elements of my actual life and my actual life experiences and incorporating it into those characters. Like Luna Outlaw, she used to wear this mask that was white. It was a camo mask. It was just a camo mask under the face cover in the Creation Suite. And colors mean things. Like white is the color of purity and hope. So I had this mask and I added the glow finish to it. And it was kind of like, because Luna was kind of like a metaphor for my anxiety and depression, and she's kind of this person that's quiet. And Sky was always the good looking sister, the person that gets everything, the person that gets all the attention, while Luna Outlaw is this outcast that's quiet. But when she talks, she speaks volumes. So she's obviously, and the way that I do her tweets and the way that I do her promos when I make them is like she's very philosophical and very like deep meaning and like Shakespearean, if you will. So you don't really understand what she means. It's kind of ambiguous, and it's kind of like you really got to think. But it gave all of those characters their each individual personality to just make them who they are. And, that's why they got, so popular. And then there was the one segment where I originally, when I introduced Luna in season 3, she wasn't going to have a mask. Like, she was going to have a mask on, and she was never going to take that mask off. But then I was like, wait a minute. Character development here. She's hiding behind her depression and her demons, because it's a metaphor. Because a lot of people with depression and anxiety, they hide behind a mask. They say that everything is okay when everything is not okay. And so, like, I took that as like a way to make her character and say, okay, I'm taking off this mask and I'm revealing who I truly am. And so, I had her take off the mask in season 5 at a pay-per-view. And she took it off, and it was a symbolism of like her, like, finding her identity, finding her purpose, and not comparing herself to her sister. She's her own identity. And a lot of people seem to like that storyline. A lot of people loved that story and how it was captivated. There's a couple times where Luna Outlaw and Sky Outlaw have fought against each other, like a little bit of a sibling rivalry. Like, I'm better than you, and you know it. Shout out to MJF. But that's kind of like how I made my storylines. I took like real aspects of real life, not just mine, but personal experiences or inspirations from other pieces of media, and put that into my universe mode. And that's why a lot of people seem to like the content that I make. And it's just like what you said, Mike, about how, there's so much potential in universe mode. And so, I think that's a great segue to go into, some of the misconceptions about it. So one of the things that I wanted to get your like opinion on is, obviously you said universe mode about it being repetitive. Of course it is, if you don't use your imagination. One of the things that my mod Young Sin had said was like, remember when you used to go outside as a kid, you picked up a stick in the yard and you used it as a wand or a sword or whatever, like you imagined in your head as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, maybe even younger. Like, that's all that I'm asking creators to do, is to use their imagination. And I feel like, and this is not to toot my own horn, I only have 300 subscribers on YouTube. I normally stream on Glimish, and I have about almost 100 followers there. And the community manager, Paco, said that I could be the wrestling guy in Glimish. That's like my house. As Paige would say, this is my house. Now it's mine. And, it's the home for my wrestling content. But, it's all about using your imagination. And I feel like universe mode is one of those modes that allows you to do that. It's just about unlocking that imagination. So, Mike, I wanted to kind of get your opinion, like, what makes you want to watch somebody's universe mode? Like,
So I think, go ahead.
Like, what makes you want to, tune in to the guy that maybe has, I don't know, let's just say for all intents and purposes, 10 to 15 viewers maybe, or let's just say 3, over somebody else that might have 1 billion of subscribers on YouTube. Like somebody like me versus, let's just say for all intents and purposes, Dank Ops, just because he's the first person that comes to mind. He makes great content.
Arguably, probably the wrestling WWE game streamer is probably Dank Ops, arguably. I think subscriber count wise, he's up almost 1.5, 1.6 million, something like that.
Yeah, something
a lot
like
of subscribers
that.
and great content. I think Dank Ops is awesome. I've watched him for years. Tony Pizza Guy, Pulse,
Another
watched
good
them
one.
all. Yeah, these guys are big. These guys are years. I think because one of the big things with Universal Mode is, again, there's such a line of potential for the mode itself that a lot of people just don't, I can't say they don't use, but they use in different ways. Like
Right.
your example, you're using Universe Mode as an avenue, and an avenue to tell stories, but your stories are being driven by personal life, things you've seen, things like that. I always view it that way. Actually, it's funny because with my Universe Mode, I actually use ideas and stories. I use them based on a few things. One, I built because of the uniqueness of the when I was on Mixer. So again, on Mixer, kind of like Glemish, Mixer was obviously its own streaming thing. I had my own eFed, and actually was a lot bigger on Mixer than it was on damn Twitch. Twitch is such a different beast. But I had different personalities create characters, different actual people, create their own MMA fighting and stuff like that. And I've used that as an avenue to be like, okay, how would this person react this to the fighter losing? How would this person react if I converted their person over to a wrestling universe? Some said yes, some said no. Based on that, I kind of have an idea of how would they react if they lost a match? How would they react with this? Prime example of a character development, a character shift. We had my mod Bear. He has two characters that were MMA. One was trained to be an MMA fighter, kind of an underneath person that we were building for the MMA league. Converted her to wrestling. She became the women's world champion. She has been the women's world champion since July. She's been women's world champion. Started off as a face. Started off as a good guy, real nice, always smiling, always happy, always this. Slowly converted into a heel. Funny story is because the way it worked, the storyline, the character that she originally beat for the women's championship to become the inaugural women's world champion, that character kept attacking her from behind. Just kept attacking her. Backstage matches, which I obviously made a backstage match, kept fighting in the back, kept jumping her matches. Some of the stuff was even the universe mode itself just inserting themselves into the match. And it just happened. And what happened over time is I made it from the happy-go-lucky, happy baby face to kind of more of a serious tone. She had a match, let's say 3 months ago. She injured her opponent. She does specifically ankle moves, injured her opponent. Kind of went to a tweener role. Then had a match finally with Ashley after months of being attacked. Ashley's manager, who is a 6'8" woman named Dan, for whatever reason or not, you play universe mode, so universe mode kind of, even when you set it up, it has a mind of its own. It'll just do
Yeah.
All right, so here is Ashley's manager interrupts mid match and attacks Ashley. So I'm like, okay, that was obviously glitch. But I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'm gonna
roll with it.
I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm like, you know what? Her manager attacked her. Screw it. And now I know where this character that went from 6 months ago being this happy-go-lucky kind of face character who was there turned into a heel based on the attitude of the creator. Bear's very much he doesn't like that he despises Ashley because she keeps attacking those characters. He doesn't like these interferences. He doesn't like seeing weapons. He doesn't like anything. So she converted from this face to a heel, now having a whole posse that comes out with her. She has her two cornermen, and then she has Dan, and they have there's this whole thing. I actually managed to get it where her managers never interfere, and she's just vicious. She injures people. She puts people out of business. For one of the few matches I did control, I had her destroy someone with a chair in a no qualification match, just for no reason, just destroy someone constantly with a chair who's just been injured. She's doing 5-minute challenges where if you survive 5 minutes with her, you get a contract.
Yep.
And stuff like that. She's converted. The story's converted. That's the great thing about Universe Mode is I converted the character from little things. So not just her presentation to how she comes out. Where before she came out, I used So Pac or Neville, he has all three of his Neville entrances. He has obviously the NXT version, the first main roster version with the Pyro, and then the third one, the Cruiserweight King version, right? The three
Yep.
entrances. Actually used all three of those entrances to convey the progression of the character. Where at first she's using Neville's entrance, the original Adrian Neville's entrance, I should say, from NXT. Comes out, the smoke, the excitement, a lot of movement, a lot of energy, to swapping up to the main roster Neville entrance, which was the fireworks, wasn't as energetic, but was still a quick entrance, to the heel one, where it's the same entrance, same lighting, same similarity, but now you're seeing the characters a little more serious. They're still making the same mannerisms, but they're a little more serious than they were before. So that's a real important thing. And give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get this call. My wife
No,
is calling me here.
no, you're good.
Let's see what's.
I just think, yeah, like to continue what Mike was saying there, it shows a lot of character progression. Something that you want to have, like character development, something for your viewers to come back to. And personally for me, to piggyback off of the question that I asked Mike, what makes me want to watch somebody's universe is the captivation of characters. And that could be through anything. You can make a character that has this, maybe a very, very dark backstory, or maybe just something interesting about them. Maybe it's the way that they look. Maybe it's the way that their attire is. Something to draw the audience in, or to draw myself in. And then keep doing that. Like, keep constantly having that draw, take that first impression and expand upon that to have viewers come back. And I think that as content creators, and I'm just saying this as a whole, both small, big, whatever, I feel like people that do universe mode and people that do this in-depthness to their content don't get the credit that they deserve. And I'm not talking about numbers. I'm not talking about hell, like I could be on Glimish and have 2K followers or something like that. That means nothing to me. Numbers don't mean anything. Like, when I look at it as this. If I achieve those numbers or those thresholds, that's great. But initially, when I created RCW, what I wanted to do was I wanted to have fun. Wanted to create a character. And now I'm taking one of those characters, that being Brian Outlaw, and signing that character, the brains behind that character, to a wrestling company. And instead of him being just a figment of my imagination, he's a real thing now. And it's like with Chris Danker. He took Chris Danger and got with the guys, Pulse, Tony Pizza Guy, DPW, Deadlock Pro Wrestling. Got with those guys and turned that into a real thing. So
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you obviously have to start your own wrestling promotion and do all that, but I'm just saying, like, give something for the viewer to come back to.
I think that's big. Is really, that's big, big, big. To give the viewer something to come back to, give the viewer a reason to watch, give the
Right.
viewer a reason to tune back. I think that the biggest thing, I think the thing that is lost, not just in the universe modes and a lot of e-feds, it's a lost art in pro wrestling in general, and this is kind of a dig at everyone. This is a dig at I don't watch AEW, but I read about it. I read about TNA. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown. I watch it on Hulu because my girlfriend does enjoy watching it, and I enjoy watching it too. But the problem with wrestling, and I've watched, and I think we talked about this on my stream the other day, I've watched wrestling from like 2003 to 2004. What happened during the Ruthless Aggression era, and especially during the Attitude Era, some crazy shit would go down, and it's like, we'll find out what's happening next week. They bring you in and bring you back. And I think the biggest excuse that people use nowadays is, well, the wrestling fan, they don't want that. They want immediately instant gratification, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people want a hook. People want a reason to come back. Have you watched Walking Dead? Do you watch Walking Dead at all?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Walking Dead. They're on the final season. Walking Dead has been on since 2010. I use the 2010s because that's when a shift came from WWE, where WWE focused more on matches than on story progression. There's not really that much story progression on WWE programming anymore, which I think is a big reason as to why. Not the biggest reason. I think the biggest reason is just a change in how people consume content. But the biggest thing for them is there's no longer a hitch to bring the show in. Realistically, you can look at an episode of Raw and an episode of SmackDown, and for the most part, you can clump them into episodes of three. You
Right.
look at it, that's kind of how they work. It's three episodes, that's the climax of the story. A show like Walking Dead, which is actually what I use as a basis of my ideas for wrestling, for my universe mode. It's episodic, but every single thing goes. You have the stuff with, let's just use the Whisperers as an example. That took
Mm-hmm.
seasons to get a climax. And even when you thought you got the climax where he killed the leader, no, sorry
Yeah.
for
Negan
spoiling
killing
that.
Alpha. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't even the end of it. Now it got real, and they had a whole another problem to deal with. And it was all part of that story. The fact that Negan is one of them now. This took seasons of rebuilding this character from when Negan first appeared to where he is at now. It took seasons to bring that. I think that's something where a lot of people forget, and a lot of people like to just say it's the fans, or it's people just don't want to consume it differently. No, people want to consume stories the same, but there has to be a hitch to the story. If you're not seeing progression, which I think is a big deal for even a video game, it's a damn video game, but even a video game, seeing the beautiful thing about a universe is you have a bunch of different characters. Whether it's you're using the in roster, the game characters, you're using created versions of real people, or you're making your own character, the progression of the characters is what brings it in.
Right. Exactly. And I love the point that you bring with Walking Dead because it's a very good example. You think of somebody like Negan, who we all thought was an absolute asshole, and then you see this backstory of his wife.
Yep.
The episode, and actually, those two, Jeffrey Dean Morgan and the actress who played his wife, are actually married in real life. His
Yeah.
wife actually plays his TV wife. And what was really interesting is because in the comic, she actually dies in the hospital from cancer. But in the show, they show her suffocating herself with a plastic bag. And they show her committing suicide in the show. And so it was that tiny little difference that made the audience, like even me as a person who's read the comics, feel so different. And I'm like, now I understand why Negan is the way he is. Because
Yeah, but
he
see,
because
what?
he lost everything.
He did. And the thing is, look at how they went and told. They didn't tell you that in the beginning. They let it digest. That you thought, because think about it, go back a few seasons. That he was the worst motherfucker around. You were waiting for Rick to kill him. You were waiting for seasons. This dude was introduced, what, the end of season 6? And that war with them didn't end till the end of, what, season 8? So it
Yeah.
took years for him to finally get his comeuppance. And then you're like, yeah, they got rid of the bad guy. But I kind of like the bad guy because he's kind of cool and he has principles. He saw through the whole thing that Negan never his principles never changed. It's just the way you viewed the character changed.
Right.
That's
Like, yeah.
where that's where it gets you because I remember when they first made Negan, people there were death threats on the actor. There were death threats on the actor. And I was like, at first I'm like, damn. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucked because you shouldn't be doing that. But I'm like, you know what? At the same time, though, that means he did his damn job,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what heels don't do nowadays in wrestling. What heels don't do, and that's why when I started the idea of my show, is I was like, all right, I need to, and I can't do it immediately. I have to build this up. I have to build a cast of characters that people like, and that people come
Hmm.
back to, and that are relatable and have different stories and different perspectives. And then I have to build someone who's just a dastardly just dastardly evil that you want to see get his ass kicked. Think about it as
Like the Miz.
the Miz. There's actually a better one than that. Bradshaw.
Oh
Bradshaw to
yeah,
me
JBL.
is
Everybody hates that dude.
one of the best heels of the 2000s, mid 2000s is JBL. Why? Because of how that storyline when he won the title from Eddie. I love Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero's big story for another time involving Eddie Guerrero and me and the house. I'm probably alive because of Eddie Guerrero. To be honest. But Eddie Guerrero is a big deal. But I remember one of the storylines that JBL talked about. There's been interviews. That story he did with Eddie at certain places. I think it was in El Paso. Did a show, and it was. You remember when Eddie Guerrero Eddie's mom basically had a heart attack in the ring, like a fake heart attack in the ring. Like
Yeah.
a story. Okay, JBL talks about that story. Bradshaw was such a great mind to listen to his podcast, stuff like that, and wrestling. He talked about how he had to have a police escort out of the town. I'm like, that is hatred right there. When they hate you so bad that you need to get the police to escort you out of town. That's when I'm like, all right, you know what? Say what you want about his wrestling skill. Obviously, no one's gonna say this dude was the best technical wrestler in the world, but he did his job.
Yep.
If they hate you so much that you need the police to escort you out of town, that's when you know, like, holy shit, I did my job. And when Eddie or whatever face finally beats my ass and I get my comeuppance, they're going to be a star. Who beat JBL for his world title?
Yep.
A year later, John Cena did.
Oh, John Cena, yeah.
A year later, who beat him? Who beat him for the world title? John Cena.
John Cena.
And
yep.
but look at that. From that comeuppance where he became world champion, he became so hated, it segued into making John Cena a star. Now, was that the only piece of the puzzle for that real life situation? No, I think everyone knew John Cena was going to be a megastar eventually. I think that's where he is now. I think everyone knew.
It's kind of like with MJF in AEW. Like
Okay.
he is basically the biggest heel that they have right now, and
Okay.
like he's my age. Like he's only like 23, 24.
And look at that. You know, years I've watched some of MJF again. I don't watch AEW just because I don't watch it, but I still pay attention to it. And you can see, I think you're blind if you don't see MJF. You're like, all right, that dude's going to be a big deal. Whether it's in AEW, whether he goes to WWE, wherever he goes, he is going to be a big deal. He's one of the people because he has that mixture of like his style, his attitude, the fact that he can talk really well, the fact that when he talks, it sounds believable.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he can make you hate him, he's going to be
Yeah,
a star,
and even in that promo that he gave this past Dynamite, where he talked because CM Punk actually pulled out a picture of him meeting MJF when he was like 11, and he talked about how he was a football player and he was, he grew up Jewish, and he talked about in the promo how the football players would make fun of him and stuff and everything. Like he turned like babyface for a minute, and like he goes, "That's why I have to beat CM Punk. I could have quit. I could have given up on my wrestling dreams." He goes, "I got out of college and I decided to because CM Punk left. He left in 2014. He quit." And it was the whole, because they're setting up CM Punk versus MJF at Revolution. Yeah. And he was like, "You left me, you quit." And he's like, "If I quit, I'm no better than you. And that's why I have to beat you, because I'm better than you and you know it."
And look at that. Story. That's story development, that's storytelling. That's the thing is not only is it's logical, it's real, it hits. And I think that's where people go in progression. But the only thing with that, because again, I haven't watched it, just going by the synopsis you go, it fits with the character.
Yeah, it's crazy because Punk comes out and he doesn't get a mic, but you can hear him and he says, "Was that real? Was that all true?" And you could see MJF crying, and he's like, "Yes, it is," and he just walks away from him.
See, that's real. That gives you a different perspective of the character. I think that's important. I think one of the things that the WWE And I'm kind of segued away from universe mode for a second, but talking about stories, and kind of still talking about universe mode. One of the things that WWE segued from is give they don't give perspective. They don't give you a view to see perspective anymore. I use the
Right.
mid 2000s because that was the last time I say they really had perspective. Even up to 2011, I'll use CM Punk as an example. When CM Punk turned, did the pipe bomb and everything, right?
Yep.
He was a heel.
2011. Yeah.
He was a heel the whole time. But
Yeah.
you understood the character was a heel. The character and all the story itself was I'm going to steal the richest prize in this company and I'm going to leave. That is an ultimate bad guy move. But the fans cheered him because of the perspective.
Right.
There's a perspective to the story. But if you actually look at the story written on a piece of paper, you're like, all right, John Cena is clearly the good guy who you should be cheering, and the CM Punk guy, he's a piece of shit because he's trying to steal their championship and leave. On paper, who's the bad guy?
And
But when you
then
watch,
the line that he said when he said, "I think this company would be better after Vince McMahon's dead," and then but we all know it's going to be taken over by his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his pathetic family.
yeah, like see, like it's perspective, but when you read it, you're like, this guy's a little asshole. When you get the perspective and the story behind the CM Punk character, you understand why it fits. That's why I say CM Punk of the 2010s. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, were the two biggest stories WWE put together
Yeah, the
because of
underdog
the
story
fact,
with Daniel Bryan. Yeah, that whole thing
yeah, and
was.
because of the fact, yeah, exactly, but because of the fact that there was but there's perspective to it. Daniel Bryan put this break. Remember when he first won the championship, 2014, both the world titles, um, and he got injured, and they were
Yep.
like a 2 month sprain where he just was the champion but didn't compete,
Right.
and the fans wouldn't cheer him. He talked about it, and he's like, I don't get this perspective because from this perspective, I'm the bad guy because I'm depriving you of your world championship because I don't want to give it up. And I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that perspective. And the
Right.
reality of it is, you look at it on paper, again, it's true. Stephanie McMahon, who was trying to get him to give up the championship, on paper, she was the good guy.
Yeah, even though that Stephanie's always been
The
the
heel.
heel
The heel.
person
But
to hate.
on paper, hey, we're trying to give the fans a championship match, and you, the champion, don't want to give up the belt because you can't, but you can't compete. So you are taking away a main eventer from you're taking away main events from our show from these people. We write it on paper, see how the perspective changes. I think that's one of the big things with story when it goes to universe is throw some perspective into it. It doesn't have to be so black and white.
Yeah,
I'll
you
use
don't
that
have to have like sometimes you have your villains that are just villains, like with with the Miz. Like he's just a guy
Yep.
that you just want to hate. Like yeah, and that's who he is. Like they tried to do the babyface thing with him, and it just didn't work.
It
Like
didn't work. But Miz is one of those people where he's obnoxious. His promo style, his attitude. I mean, he's just obnoxious, and it works as a bad guy. No, another character. I forgot about another character. Still in WWE right now. Kevin Owens. The first
oh
three
yep,
years of his time with the company, the character he used that he does not use anymore, which is the prize fighter, the gimmick that he was using, right?
yeah,
On paper, he's just a dude that's fighting for his family. Literally, that's it. He wants to make money to take care of his family. He knows that the way you make money is you win and you win championships.
yep,
That was the basis of his character from when he became NXT champion to being the Universal champion. He went from being just a humble guy in the beginning to being at the top, the world champion. Look at the story, write down the story. And I've done this with a few things. I learned this from just writing. Write down the story without any of the context. Kevin Owens, to me, if you write down the story, sounds like the biggest good guy in the world on paper, but prospectively, he wasn't.
right,
And I think that's a big view on story is you have to view that perspective, and that's where I viewed um, the storyline. So I'll go back to the Crystal Bailey, which is our women's world champion, and Ashley Jason, who was her opponent. At first, the roles were flipped. Ashley was the
hmm
heel. Ashley was she felt she got robbed. She felt she got robbed out of her world championship match. If you actually watched their first world championship match, I still have it. I don't think I have to upload it. I need to start uploading stuff. but their first world championship match was on Wrestling Empire. Technically speaking, she made Krissa tap out for a split second, but the referee wasn't looking. Because Wrestling Empire, you can tap out and still reverse out of a move after your character taps.
Wow. Oh yeah. I
Bailey
can't wait to try that out.
Bailey Wrestling Empire is a crazy ass game, but Bailey screamed and tapped out and then reversed and got out of the submission hold. The referee with Wrestling Empire, it's not. This is a thing where I hate WWE games about. Is if you tap and the referee ain't looking, the referee automatically is like, all right, well, you tapped. I think 2K19, the older 2Ks have fixed, the newer 2Ks have fixed that. But before, it was
Hopefully.
like, if you tap, you tapped. In Wrestling Empire, if the referee is not looking at you when you tap, you can keep tapping. If the referee don't look, you ain't tapped.
It didn't happen.
It didn't
Referee
happen.
didn't see it. Didn't happen.
And look what happened. Ashley Jason made her tap.
Well, yeah, it's that simple element of like people don't realize how much a referee plays a role in storytelling too. But I definitely liked your point where it's the perspective. It's like, yeah, you can have a guy that is a heel, but when you understand where he's coming from, why he does the things that he does, oh, maybe he's not that bad.
Exactly.
And it's one of the storylines that I remember in universe mode that I did was a storyline where Brian Outlaw betrayed his own family. So basically what happens is he ends up getting this girlfriend from Berlin, Germany. She's this orphan. I made her. She's this orphan. And, Brian Outlaw is the type of guy. It's like the classic damsel in distress character trope where it's like he sees a beautiful woman in trouble. He needs to help. And so he gets her out of Germany, gets her out from that pathetic life because she was going from foster home to foster home, living on the streets, and the foster care system sucks. So it simulates like a real life situation of like how bad the foster care system is, and then he takes her, he brings her to Manhattan, his hometown, and brings her to RCW, and what he does is they end up being boyfriend and girlfriend, but they agree to never say the words "I love you," and the reason why they never say it is because Brian's dad abandoned him, her parents abandoned her, so they don't really know what love feels like, so they don't want to say that because they think that the word "I love you" means absolutely nothing if you don't show it. So it's that perspective of like, actions speak louder than words type of deal. And so she ends up debuting in the craziest way. I do 3 videos, and it's just copyright-free videos of Germany. And me doing a voiceover of Brian Outlaw talking about her and saying like how much he loves her, like how infatuated he is. He has this infatuation. He's never felt this way about a person before. And there's like 3 videos. And then finally, when she debuts, he says, because I had to find a way to kill off, quote unquote, kill off a character. Okay. So when she debuts, he cuts a promo and he's like, this character was named Whitney White. So I had to kill her off. I had to find a cool way to kill her off. I didn't want to just job her out. I wanted to kill her off in the most satisfying way possible. So I just used Eliza to debut, and he basically says, Whitney, 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 you just don't get it, do you? You don't know when to quit. You don't know when to give up. Something like that. And because it stems from a rivalry that Whitney had with his sister Luna, and Luna beat her for the women's championship and retained it. So she already got the shit beaten out of her in that match. And he was like, we took you in. We brought you in. And it was actually from another person's EFED that we brought her in. And so he's like, we took you in, gave you everything, and this is how you repay us, by betraying us, by doing something horrible to us. Yeah. And, and he's like, And Was ich liebe means what I love in German. It's actually a song, and that's actually the song that I used as her entrance music. And the song, when translated to English, it basically says that loving something is a waste of time because it's going to end in heartbreak in the end. And so basically, I always say that like love is blind and love is a wicked game. You know, it's a game that a lot of people aren't ready for, that they don't want to play. You know, which is why the divorce rate's so high. But you know, and it's like, and so he says to Whitney, he's like, Willis du ein Spiel spielen, want to play a game? That was in German, and I actually had to. What I actually did to make the character realistic was because I have a German ancestry, but I didn't really know the language too much until I started listening to like Rammstein and started translating the songs and actually learning the language. And I wanted to learn the language because I wanted it to make it realistic. I wanted her story to be realistic. So I wanted my character, Brian, to love this girl so much that he's willing to teach her English and learn her language so that he can better communicate with her. And so, like, he says, well, you want to know my favorite game? Well, why don't I show you? Screen goes black. All you hear is, and I put holy shit chance in this highlight reel. I make this thing through highlight reel. And Aliza appears behind her and hits her finisher of the wicked game. And you just hear me like screaming my head off doing the play-by-play. And it's just her beating the shit out of Whitney White. And then she grabs a chair and then hits her like 3 or 4 times with a chair and then walks off. Replay happens. And then I'm just like, what the hell just happened? And then I'm like, we got to take a break. We'll be right back with the next match. And then break happens, and then the next match happens. So that's how I planned out her debut. And I just did that with highlight reel and edited the scene together in video editing software and put it as a media source in OBS and just played it. And then I just commentated over it. You know, and that was it. And actually that video, when I put that on TikTok, I don't have TikTok anymore, but when I put that on TikTok, that got like over 4,000 views within 24 hours. And I think it was because of just the way the commentary was. It was choreographed. Like, I didn't know how I was going to react to it. Like, I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know how I was going to react to it. So I was just like, holy shit is right. She's attacking Whitney White. And, you know, I'm just like, you know, I like kind of like go over the top a little bit. But then he ends up falling in love with a couple seasons go by. So we're at like maybe season 10, season 11 right now. And in the timeline. And Aliza ends up befriending Sky, ends up getting close to his sister. And so I have this app that I can use to make tweets and text messages. So I make this text message thread between me, because the Outlaws call me Boss Man, so it's between me and Sky, and she's like, I don't know how I feel about Aliza. I think Brian is doing something wrong. I think something's going to go wrong. And I was like, no, Sky, relax. He has it. He's got it under control. I got it under control. I'm totally fine. Like, everything's good. Everything's fine. Turns out, Brian Outlaw does a promo in their hometown, mind you, of this particular pay-per-view. And he says, and at the end of the promo, he says, sometimes God does things that we don't understand. Because that's something that my mother and my grandmother would always tell me as a kid. And we cannot fathom why. We just have to live with it. And he says, I hope one day that you can forgive me. I'm sorry. And then the lights go out, and Aliza's at the top rope. Sky's on the floor, like after a match, and she ends up hitting Sky's own finisher on her. And walking out of the arena and leaving her on the floor. And then, you know, so Sky's like, thinking, why would you betray me? And that's the whole thing of love is blind. It makes you do stupid shit. So that's another thing of a cliche. So that's how that storyline planned out. But you see how that storyline and that perspective and everything evolved over time. What's up? What's up, Matthew? Good to see you in here, man. That's how that storyline evolved over time. It wasn't something that, it's kind of like what you said with seasons, like with the Whisperers and the Walking Dead. That was the evolution of Negan. That was something periodically over seasons. It was developed. It was long term.
I think that's the thing with the universe mode, that stories. You actually, if you think about that, you have the ability to tell something long term. You just gotta keep the middle of it engaging and keep true to characters. You said obviously what you're saying. All your characters have been true to each other. They're true to themselves. It's just now the person watching it change their perspective.
Right.
Same thing. I kind of built a story with those two women characters. One was a heel, one was a face. Perspective was real big perspective. One of them got robbed. What does she do? How does she react? How does she react to getting robbed? She kept attacking the world champion over and over again. From the perspective of it, the creator of the women's world champion says she doesn't earn it. She doesn't deserve the title.
Right.
Okay. So she just keeps attacking the person over and over again while the world champion is like, I want to face legit competition. Goes on, defends the championship against other women, and eventually, after 7 months, this woman gets a shot. But the creator of the champion, who drives the story behind the women's champion, they gotta earn it, and they can't just earn it by attacking someone in the back. This character, who originally was a heel, becomes a face because all she wants is a shot, a rematch, an opportunity to show she can do it. Whereas the champion, who was the face, turns heel. Their perspectives, their viewpoints never change. Just the perspective of how the game reacts to them, and the perspective of how the viewer watches them on the stream. It changed up completely. It kind of mismatched. So now it's one way is one way is the other. That's the beauty of universe mode. You can do that. You can do stuff like that. You can change perspective of a character, and it doesn't have to be match after match after match after match. I went a month straight where Ashley, who is now the face, just kept attacking the champion over and over again. The whole reason that she even got a non-title match with the champion is because the champion was tired of the nonsense of being attacked and wanted to injure her so she couldn't attack her anymore.
Right.
That was it. That was the whole story. And then they had the match, and Ashley somehow, even with her own manager turning on her, she did it was a roll up, and she beat her. Now she gets a title match. She got her title match, and the champion destroyed her because the champion was done playing games, destroyed her and injured her. So she'll come back eventually. That's story. That's how you can build a story.
And then when she comes back, then again, that adds another aspect to the story. So you're continuing something that you've already started. So you're constantly adding something new. So it keeps it interesting for you as the content creator, but also interesting for the people that are watching it.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's the one thing.
Emotion behind it. That's another thing, is there has to be emotion behind it. I learned this really big. So when I did PWC, or it was MXMA on Mixer, right? When I did the MMA thing, I actually, at first, I thought this is not gonna work. I'm creating a MMA e-fed. No one does that. No one does that. It took me years to find someone that did it at all. I did 100 events. 100 MMA events over a 3-year period, thousands of fights, and the thing is that hit me with it was my first big event. Right, it was one created character, one of my viewers created character versus another viewer's created character. Right, the one created character, very good, very strong, but had no stamina. Right, the other viewer, strong, great kicks, great stand up, great grappling, great everything. Right,
Yep.
it was a fight. 2 minutes, a minute and a half into the fight, she sidestepped, got caught with a hook, got stunned. Woman came in, hit her with a hip toss, put her in a triangle, and tapped her out. I still remember in the chat, I'm reading the chat, someone's laughing, other people are like, this is bullshit. This is our main event, it ended in a minute. This is bullshit. The creator is livid. He's like, how the hell? My character is 9-0 or 6. I think it was 4-0 at the time. She's 4-0. She's undefeated. She was whooping her ass, and and I was like, and she made one mistake, and in one mistake, the other one capitalized. This is all AI stuff. One
Right.
mistake. All she did was step to the left while the hook was coming in. One
She stepped
mistake,
right
and
into getting punched in the face.
yes,
She
one
walked right
mistake.
into it.
One mistake is all it took. That
Yep.
woman became the world champion, right? Then
Yep.
other people started creating stuff. Then one of my other viewers, she created a fighter. Her fighter ended up beating that woman for the world championship, held the world champion, the strawweight championship in that league for a year and a half, beat
Yep.
everybody. She beat every female in the division. The UFC 4 comes out, she's facing one of the same person whose character is he built another character. Same person whose character could not beat her before. Champion made a mistake. She fucked up. She made a mistake. She got caught with a spinning back fist and got knocked out. After a year and a half,
Damn.
almost 600 days of being the world champion, she got knocked out and lost her championship. And it was just one mistake, all revolving around one mistake, but it generated an emotion because the creator was like, finally, someone beat this bitch. I finally did it. Like
Finally! Finally someone did it!
I finally defeated this fucking monster. I finally defeated her. And he's like, this is all I wanted for the character was to become the strawweight champion. She became the strawweight champion. But you see, like that is a story where it built for a while, and obviously MMA booking, or I guess booking, but creating an MMA league, an MMA EFED versus a wrestling EFED. MMA is very straightforward, which it has to be. It's a sport. It's very
Right.
straightforward. It doesn't have the ability to be like wrestling with its stories. There's drama. There's stuff behind it. It doesn't have the ability to do so. Whereas wrestling, you have the ability to use that drama to build up. Right now, that same creator, it's Bear. He had his male is the Western Continental Champion. His female is the Women's World Champion. He personally
Well, he's
does
just
not
taking
want to lose.
everything.
He's been doing it. Hey, listen, he personally does not want to lose the Women's World Championship. He's like, I'll lose it to anyone but Ashley.
Damn it.
And
It would be funny. It would be funny. He's like, I'd lose it to anybody with Ashley, and then she ends up taking it from him. That'd be hilarious.
that's why, you know what I had to do? You know what I had to do? We made the agreement and I built it into the story mode. He's like, I want you to give Ashley multiple matches against other opponents. I was like, okay. And if she wins, and whether she wins or loses the matches, she gets her title match. I was like, all right, that's fair. And if she wins the matches, I was like, if she wins the matches, then all your people are banned from ringside. If she loses the matches, then she still gets a title match, but you get your people. And he's like, okay, that's fair.
Fair enough.
She lost the match, and she got injured. So she walked into a women's world championship match last week, a week from today, injured. She was injured and could not get the job done. She lost.
Understandable
But
because she's injured though.
she could have won, and now I have a chance for a future story. And who knows? Who knows? I had she defended her title last night. Her
Yep.
Bailey did defend the women's title last night in all. So PwC, the way it works with our with my university EFED, all championship matches and contender matches are 2 out of 3 falls.
Yep.
Because it was born from an MMA league, because MMA has rounds. That's the round format. It's technically it can go up to 3 rounds in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So
Yep.
you have to take 2 falls to win the match.
Fair enough.
She dominated the woman that beat her last week in just like a test match. She beat her in 30 seconds. First fall,
Damn.
30 seconds. 35 seconds first fall. This is 100% AI versus AI. 35 seconds in the first fall. And then
Still,
the second
damn,
fall,
35.
the match was like a minute. The match lasted like almost, I think, under 2 minutes. Was the championship match. Beat her. Second fall was about a minute and a half later. Made her tap out both times to leg submissions.
Wow.
Tapped her out, moved on. She's dominant. I know eventually Ashley's going to come back, and we're going to circle back to this story because now there's unfinished business. Can she beat Ashley clean without any interference, without any pre-match issues, without any pre-match injuries, without anything? Can she beat her clean? But on the flip side, Ashley has to earn a championship match again. So who knows how long that's going to take.
Right, exactly. So there's more there's more different evolutions to the story. To segue into that, now that we've talked about, stories and how we do our universe modes and the potential universe mode, one of the last things I want to touch on is like, now, here we go. We have all the potential that is universe mode, right? We have all that potential, the highlight reel, the creation suite, the run-in system, you name it, you got it. There's a bunch of things to utilize. Now it's a matter of streaming and Twitch and Glimish and all these other platforms. But obviously we're on Twitch right now. So what do you think is the number one issue that content creators, and I'm talking about like obviously non-established ones. So like not
Okay.
the Dank Ops, not the CM Pulses of the world, which all of those guys make phenomenal content. Um,
Absolutely.
absolutely. But what do you think is sort of hindering? I mean, you go on to WWE 2K on Twitch. I mean, like I've been able to make a home for myself on Glimish
Absolutely.
because of the fact that it's so small. But you go on Twitch, WWE has probably 20 to 30 people streaming it on a given day.
100%.
I would say pretty much about that. Maybe even 40 or 50 on a good day. And so it's not as saturated as Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever. So theoretically, people should be able to get viewers, no problem. But that's not real. It's not really about the viewers. It's really just about the exposure and what content creators do. So what do you think is the main problem in terms of not only streaming but with YouTube and everything else regarding this content? Like what do you think is the main issue that is hindering the exposure of obviously very creative people such as yourself, myself, and plenty of others? What do you think is the big hinder? Obviously it's not the big YouTubers. It's not the
I would agree. Not the
it's
big
not
big
them.
YouTubers are fine. So I'm gonna use an example. I actually just pulled up Twitch here just to look at analytics real quick. I'm really and so actually I run a stream. I ran a stream team. Our stream team kind of shut down, but I ran a stream team on Mixer and in the beginning parts of Twitch called remixers and they call it touring. Right. I was a
Right.
community manager for it. What I did is I looked at analytics. Right. I also look at the failure of what's called stream teams. So I'm gonna take a look at WB 2K19 right now on Twitch. WB 2K19, 78 viewers as a total, right?
Okay.
305,000 followers. So a decent amount of followers.
For
Um,
that game.
for
So
the
there's
game, yeah,
obviously a player base there and a
decent
fan
amount.
base there.
Now, WWE 2K20. I'm just gonna jump 2K20. I want to see what's happening to 2K20. 41 viewers, 179,000 followers. So what does that say? That means that roughly right now, yeah, I don't feel like doing math, so I'm gonna calculate this real quick. Um, equals you have 119 viewers watching wrestling content right now. The reason I bring up W2K20 and 2K19 is because, like it or not, the community is split between two different wrestling games.
Right.
The community, because guess what? There are some people who don't like 2K20. There's a lot of people who don't like 2K20. I get it completely. There's other
Reasons
people
valid.
for valid reasons. Absolutely. Now, there's an article that someone wrote. One of our contributors wrote over on one of the other contributors, I should say, wrote on the Smackdown Hotel, right? Where he talked about a few things. Actually got published. Holy shit! Actually got published. But he talked about a few things. And one of the biggest things that he spoke about was how to make WWE 2K20 fun. There is a way to make 2K20 fun. Is it hard? Yeah, but there's a way. There's a way to do it, and people have found ways. What happens here with this community is it's split. You mentioned Fortnite, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a Fortnite 1 and a Fortnite 2. There's a Fortnite.
Right.
That's the biggest problem right now. Is there's not because of the fact that WWE went on a hiatus, because of the fact that 2K20 performed how it did. that WWE 2K19 and 2K20, the community is split between two games. That's one. The community
Right.
is split between two different games because guess what? If I do WWE 2K18, I'm gonna look up 2K18 right now. WWE 2K18 has 4 people watching it, and look at this: one person is streaming WWE 2K18 for one viewer, and there's nothing wrong with that. The other person is streaming Rocket League, and they just put the 2K18 tag, right?
And didn't switch the game.
And then
Right.
change it. So realistically, there's one person watching WWE 2K18, which is average for an older game. If 2K20 did the job, that would be 2K19 right now. 2K20 would be the game. The beautiful thing is when 2K22 comes out, pending any glitches, which I'll say from a viewpoint, from a viewer standpoint, I would say that that is not going to be a glitchy.
Not as bad as 20 was, definitely.
No, not as bad as 20 was for sure. Not as bad as 20 for sure, um, but it's there's gonna be some questions being, there's gonna be some issues there. If 2K22 comes out right, and so far, I will say their marketing approach for this game is very open, very upfront. They have no problem showing gameplay, have no problem showing matches, they have no problem letting people test matches, no problem going to the deep dives for GM mode for stuff like that. No problem at all, right?
Yeah.
Um, I have to say I give them a lot of respect for that, and that makes me feel good about the game. We were talking about it in the SDH Discord, just talking about it recently, and we're like, yeah, the fact that they're open about this makes me feel that 2K22, that it's going to be okay for you to move on from 2K19. It's going to be okay for you to move on from 2K. I mean, you don't really have a choice. They're going to shut down the online network anyway. But it's okay for you to move on from those games because the new the new game's got you covered.
Right.
The new game's got you covered. It's okay to move on. That is a big deal to me because that means that now everyone's going to be on a unified system, right?
Right.
So that's going to give everyone a chance to grow. That's going to give everyone a chance to build up and to come out there. Another thing that I think the 2K community lacks, right, is a sense of unison. So have you heard of you stream, you create content? Other people, if you're watching, you probably create content yourself. And if you don't, if you just consume content, you probably heard of this term, the word stream team.
Yep.
Heard of it?
Yep.
That
Yeah.
is, don't, I'm saying from a person who ran a stream team, do not do it.
I've heard a lot
Do,
of stories where it just
do,
seems like it doesn't help you in the long run. It
no.
really doesn't. And
Yep.
honestly, it's like it's about like finding like I found Young Sin and Sakate both on Mixer before Mixer had just died.
Okay.
And I decided to network with those guys because those guys did their own universe modes. Actually, Sin was on PlayStation. The only reason why he bought an Xbox was because I said, okay, I'll share my Game Pass with you if you buy an Xbox.
Okay.
And so every game that I get, he gets. And because my account's on his Xbox. So because of that, he was able to get a Series X. He's got the Series X and PS5. So he's going to run one. I think his plan is he's going to run one show on the PlayStation and run one show on Xbox.
Right.
But the thing is, it's not going to matter anymore because cross-plat community creations. But he actually got an Xbox just so that he could download my versions of my characters on his show, and he completely detracted himself from his version of his show on 2K19 on the PlayStation and moved it over to Xbox. And that was because Sakate and myself both have Xbox. So, we took a network of our two people that have both similar audiences to you. So basically Sakate, out of all three of us, Sakate has more of an audience than myself and Sin. But
Okay.
we took all three of us. We both have similar audiences. we both attract the same viewership, the same, like in terms of the same username, same group of people, and we combined our talents into one. So I help those guys make the logos for their shows. I help those guys make the segments for their shows, but we all do our own individual things. They do CPU versus CPU. I do player versus AI. Actually, the first time in 2K22, I will be doing a CPU versus CPU show, but
Yeah.
but that's for the first time. And so
You're learning from it. Exactly. That's a different experience. But at the end of the day, see what you're doing? You're networking with different content creators. So I'm gonna give you an example. I think this is the biggest weakness for anyone creating content for 2K games. Between WWE 2K19 and 2K22, there's 450,000 followers, roughly, right?
right,
450,000 followers. Right now, there's 142 viewers watching both games combined. Now I'm gonna go to
correct.
EA Sports UFC 4. All right. So I want you, based on what number I gave you of followers, UFC 4 has 300 or has 88,000 followers. How many viewers do you think they have? Top of your head.
Okay, so how many followers does WWE have?
Between 2K19 and 2K20, 450,000, and they have 141 viewers right now
Okay, watching content. All right.
watching content. 141 viewers.
Okay. And then UFC's got like 30,000, something like
80,
that.
88,000 followers.
88,000. Okay. So maybe that's okay, 141.
Don't do the math too hard. I'll tell you right now.
An average
Almost,
like
almost
40 or
400 viewers. Almost
400.
viewers.
Yeah. I was
They
going to
are
say like
crushing.
around a couple hundred probably.
They are the WWE 2K series has 3 times the amount of followers that the UFC series has.
Right.
But the UFC has 4 times the viewership.
So, yeah, then you could play like, okay,
Why?
let's,
But you know why? Here's the biggest thing I'm gonna tell you because I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm looking at the top streams going on right now, right? We
yep.
have FN 52 or FNC. We have Showtime MMA. We have Fight. Now we have Primetime MMA. You have 3 UFC leagues. 3 UFC leagues. What these leagues do is there's one league, and I mentioned this on Discord to you the other day, called ESFL. What
Yep.
ESFL did is they created themselves and basically by putting money into it, by putting effort into it, they made themselves the league to be. Like they are the top league in the UFC esports. They work, they do esports stuff for UFC now. They do esports stuff for EA now, like on an official basis. They're
Mm-hmm.
advertised on EA's game. That's how big of a deal they got, right?
Right.
What they did from doing that, they built a game. Because I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says. UFC and MMA, UFC and WWE, obviously, probably MMA in certain points, it has its peaks and valleys, maybe a little more popular than WWE.
Yeah.
WWE is a bigger brand, and I think WWE, because of just the virtue of their content, is a more family friendly. I mean, obviously, it's a more family friendly brand, right?
Right.
Um, there's no way in hell anyone can tell me that the UFC game sells better than the WWE games.
No.
No way in hell
No.
anyone can say that the UFC game sells anywhere better than the WWE game. Nowhere in the hell can anyone say that. Because it's not, because just on the follower count, bro, the WWE games has 4 times the followers. That should tell you right there. Okay, yeah, they ain't no way in hell UFC is cracking the WWE games. The WWE games, as of like I checked like maybe a year ago, is like the 26th top selling game franchise in history.
That's pretty good. Almost top
Like
25. Like
And
that's
this is not all of them. This is the WWE Smackdown series, which is what the 2K series is now. The Smackdown series or the WWE 2K series now is in the top 50 of highest selling game franchises in history. That tells
right.
you right there, holy shit, a lot of people buy this game. So why aren't a lot of people watching this game? The biggest thing with UFC by ESFL being created a few years ago, it got all these people talking by ESFL having big thing here, having standards. It
Right.
made every other league have standards. And it made all these content creators collab and work together. There's so many people that work with ESFL, with Primetime, with Showtime. I did commentary for these damn leagues, for some of them. for SEC, for even with mine. There's so many content creators that work together that they actually grew their network up to where now people are watching these shows, and it's become a popular thing where now even EA and UFC are like, huh, we can probably let's invest into this. Let's help these creators grow. And there's creators who are small time YouTuber or small time Twitch streamers. I know one guy who was a really small time 1 to 2 viewers on Twitch. He
Yep.
was working with these leagues, winning fights, competing, being cool, being humble. His following has grown tremendously. He 34 viewers on right now. I'm not gonna hype him up directly. I want to give him a shout out. He has 34 people watching right now. And usually he hovers around 50.
Right.
That's from networking, hyping up with other leagues. That's where UFC kills the WWE leagues. And I'll tell you, I've done research before I even started my own league. I talked to people who, and even after, I've talked to you, I talked to Sin a little bit, I talked to BDT, Frost Hero. I've had conversations with all of these different creators, right?
Yep.
And these conversations with creators, I'm seeing that a lot of, like one guy that does I forgot which league he does, but he does a league, and he's been doing it for years. He does his own website and stuff like that. He
Hmm.
said he's like, I don't really don't mess with other creators. I don't talk with other creators. I don't collab with other creators. I don't do stuff like that. I'm like, why? It's like created like they're shitty, or they're backstabby, or they're this, or they're that. I'm sure
Which
you
some
follow
of
the
them
same.
are.
Right? And I'm sure, hell yeah, some of them are. I believe it. Some of these creators are
It's
backstabbing
actually
with their.
happened to me, uh, Sin, and Sakate. We had this one friend, or one person that we networked with,
Okay,
who ended up, and this person will not be named because we're not calling out anybody.
of course.
But this particular human being, this particular person, um, had basically decided to learn everything that they could from all three of us,
Mhm.
and then earn a type of a following, a certain type of a following, and then basically said, "F you guys, I'm out," and ghosted us and never talked to us again. Left
Yep.
all of our discords.
Yep.
Left every. Basically, fell off the face of the earth in terms of chatting with us or anything. And it's
Yep.
like,
Moving on real quick.
and it was like, okay, so we helped you get to where you're at, and
Then you
this
just
is
took
how
out.
you
You know
like.
what's
Oh,
funny? You ain't the first one to tell me that story. My friend Mark, who had fighters on my league, him and another one of my good friends, Nick, had fighters in an MMA league. Mark has run a league called the IWWL. It's an esport league on the Xbox since like SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. He's run
right.
it every single year. When me and him talk, now I talked about creating a thing. He's like, "Hey man, watch out if you do PvP." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because people will fuck you over so damn fast." And he explained to me about the same shit you just explained, where he's like, "This one dude, I helped him get his league off the ground. We worked together. We did this, we did that. The next thing you know, this motherfucker's stealing my people." I'm like, "Oh hell nah." And then out of nowhere, he's like, and at first he's like, "You know what? It's cool because you know what? I only run a show 1 day a week. Who am I to be like you can't go fight somewhere else, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, he puts out this rule: if you work in Mark's league, you can't work in mine. You can't compete in my league.
Wow.
And I do more shows than Mark because Mark is an adult with children and a job.
Right.
Mark can only do it once a week. He's like, I do 4 shows a week because he's like a high school. He's like a young teen, like maybe 19, 20. I do three
Right.
shows a week. You can compete in my league 3 shows a week, or you can compete in his league 1 show a week. But you have to choose. And people left Mark's league, and it hurt Mark's league bad.
Right.
And all he did was help the dude, introduce the dude, get the people going. That's where the problem is with wrestling. I think I've learned from stream teams and from learning stream teams that when you have one person in charge, it's not a good deal because that one person, oh man, he's up there. He's up to no good. I'll give you an example. Dude name, I'm gonna call him out directly. His name he basically created a mixer channel called Channel Zero, right?
Right.
I'm gonna use this as an example because it's a very prime example. And the view of this channel originally
Mm-hmm.
was, hey, all unpartnered streamers, follow me, and we're gonna just host people throughout the day. All it is. I'm gonna run live 24/7, and we're just gonna host people, and like give love to people, right? Okay,
Sounds
sounds
good
good.
from the looks of it.
But then he started streaming. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Then he started streaming more. Okay, good. Then out of nowhere he started hosting people less. He started streaming all day. Okay. Then out of
Yeah.
nowhere he has, and this is mind you, he started this channel like in let's say August or no, or let's say May. By June, because of the fact that he was doing this whole thing, all streamers work together. He amassed like almost 6,000 followers.
Jeez,
Now
that's
you're
crazy.
streaming. Now you're getting 200, 300 viewers watching. Now what happens? Oh, 6 months later, my man has a club. My man has merch. He's partnering with merch things. He doesn't team at all. He removed the channel part from his name, and now he's his own brand. And the brand that was there, which was we're a team,
It's
that shit is
gone.
gone. That shit is gone because it
Yeah.
was his channel, it was his brand, it was his thing. What UFC did, circle back to UFC out of content. The ESFL is not a single person thing. The ESFL has like it was started off with like 5 different streamers who created a channel, created a league within a, obviously, they have their own content, but created a league. And now it's a collaboration of a bunch of different streamers. And guess what they did? They started getting these feeder leagues where, A, if you want to be part of the ESFL, if you want to be part of this network, you've got to compete in one of these places. A, we have a standard. If you do any of this shit, you're gone. They have a rule book. I have to find it, but they have a book, a booklet, a Google Doc, pages of rules and breakdowns of what is expected to be. If you want to be a part of our network, this is what's expected, right?
Right.
The network grew. All the other leagues started working together. Creators started working together, collaborating, and look what happened. There's more viewers in UFC than there are for WWE right now because they're
Right.
working together. That's where I think they're missing. So in terms of creating content, to circle back there, work with a network of like-minded people.
Right. Exactly. I think it definitely, and I mean that you could argue that that works with anything. You know
Of course.
what's really crazy with with me is like I did this. I've been doing this. This will be my 4th year. Come August 21st of this year, it'll be
Okay.
my 4th year of doing RCW content, and I've been able to take things like it's funny because I took 2 wrestlers, Jordan and Savannah Williams. I put them in NBA and gave them a backstory of them being WNBA players. And then I took that backstory and I created like this what if scenario. Like, what if they never left the WNBA and they continued their basketball careers? And now that's one of my YouTube series on my channel. So I took 2 completely different games. Like, I take games that don't even necessarily relate to one another and I make it work somehow.
Yeah.
I even think it's crazy. But the craziest thing is, I was able to take a character, Brian Outlaw, for instance, and turn it into a real thing after 3 to 4 years. And I'm only 23, so like
Dude,
I'm.
you can do it. You can do stuff like that. See, that's what I'm talking about. Growth and through bringing a uniqueness. You know, it's great to the Sakati and what's it called? He doesn't do that, right? And shit, I'm looking for so many names right now. But Sin doesn't do that either. Sin has a completely different kind of product than what you have. But you're
Right,
working together. You're working together. But what Sin presents, what Sakati presents, what you present are different from each other, just within the same genre. That's how
right,
you grow. Because honestly, that's how I found you on Blemish. And that's how I found Sin. I watched Sin stuff. It's different from yours. It's different from mine, but it has the same familiarity. We're still the same damn game. Our
right.
product is a little
Exactly,
different.
exactly. And it's crazy because, like, you know, that's to me that is the entertainment value out of universe mode. You go to universe mode, like, and not to knock Call of Duty Warzone or battle royale games, but I just don't understand the appeal of watching somebody dive out of a plane and do battle royale and try. I understand the thrill because
I did it.
you're getting down to the last like few people, and like holy shit, you're the last team alive, and you gotta, oh, 2 more people, right here, go, like, like, yeah, like you get I understand that thrill, but it's the same type of content every time because no matter what streamer you watch, yeah, they're going to play the game differently, but it's still the same content. Whereas with universe mode and how even NBA 2K has this where you can make expansion teams and upload your own logos and create your own arenas and stuff. Like games that have those capabilities where you're able to where the only limit really is your imagination opens up so many opportunities because guess what? Yeah, if I play Warzone right now, I'm stuck right at the bottom. And yeah, I'm normally stream on Glimish, so it's a little bit different there, but even then, I was on Glimish the other day, and this just kind of ties into everything that we've been saying. I was on Glimish the other day, and I was just checking out some streams because it's a new platform. Want to check out some streams, see who was on. And so I was watching somebody, and they're like, and this is the vibe, and I have a whole video that talks about why I moved from Twitch over to Glimish, and it talks about all the inconsistencies with Twitch and everything else. And it wasn't like bad-mouthing Twitch or anything, or pro-Glimish anti-Twitch or anything. It was just really me sharing my experiences. So I end up talking with this guy, and he's like, "Are you a streamer?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "I do wrestling." And he's like, "Wrestling? I've never heard of that before." And so him and I were talking, and he's like, I was telling him I use this app to make tweets for the characters. I was just telling him everything that I just told everybody and you in the Discord and everything before we even started going live. It was like, I told him everything, and he goes, "Dude," he's like, "that's probably the coolest, most original thing that I have ever heard." And he goes, "Dude, you're going to be something on this platform because I don't know anyone that's going to be doing that. Like, I have no idea that anybody's going to be doing any of that." And that was cool. It was so cool because he never heard of somebody doing that type of product in the way that I do it. It's like what you just said with Sin and Sakate. Like they both do their own version of their own content. They both do their own thing, and because it's two guys, three counting me, doing their own thing, working together, but doing their own thing where it's different enough, that's how you grow, because then you get guys that are like, okay, like, and I never thought that because of what you just said about, like, other people using other people and, trying to sabotage other people, I never thought that I would have to put rules for RCW where I have this rule now where you have to be a follower of the channel for 2 weeks. Because the number one, I think another problem that comes in, now that we're discussing the problems with the community and streaming, is that another issue is you'll get people that come into the stream and they'll be like, "Can I join your universe? Can I join your universe? Can I join your universe?"
Immediately. I had it not been like you had on my stream, show on Monday, we had, who was it? Ty and Mage.
Yeah, right? I know Ty and all those guys. I know who they are.
Had you not known them, I would have said no. You knew them, and I've known you for a while, so all right. If you know them, they're cool people. I'll give them a shot. But once again, if I don't know you have no idea how many times in doing UFC, how many times someone would join, like, "Hey, I want to make a fighter." I spend 30 minutes making them a fighter. In UFC, it was pain. I had to also record it onto a Google Doc. So I had 22 slots. So I had 22 slots with 80-something fighters. So it sucked. So I had to record it onto a system and stuff like that just to get it all going in the right direction.
Right.
How much of a pain that is to format and do all that stuff. Character creation's a bitch.
Yeah. You don't need to tell me about that. Yeah, that's...
I'm detailed with my character creations. I take, on average, like, I know we have certain people that I'm moving over for season 2 that aren't making a season 1. I know Bear was like, he's like, "Why don't you get this guy from season 1 who wasn't winning that much and give him like a one-time match in season 2? I was like, nah, because if I'm going to create a character in season 2, I'm going to create any character in my league, or I'm going to allow anyone to create a character and bring them into my league, they need to they need to be detailed. I want them as detailed as possible. I want them to look like there is a lot of work in them. I take hours to create characters because it sucks. And the biggest thing for me is it sucks when you put a WWE star next to a creative superstar in the older games, and you
Mm-hmm.
can tell. Yeah, the doll over there. That's the fake one. That's the one you want.
Yeah.
You can tell. You can tell which one's who, right? You can tell
Right.
immediately. That's why some of my characters there's marks on their face, there's marks on their body. I do some overlays to make their skin look a little more realistic. I want them to look as authentic as possible.
Right.
So it takes time. So yeah, you can't just let anyone into your league because they'll show up, make me a character, and then they'll fucking dip and they'll be gone.
Right. Exactly. There was this one instance, and this you're gonna laugh at this story, because there was this one instance. I was doing a test stream. I was in college, and I was doing a test stream. There was this one instance. This one person, she came in to the stream, and I created her a character, and and she I don't upload my characters because number one thing that people go through is you'll upload a character and then that person will re-upload that character or they'll do
Yep.
something and they'll claim it as theirs and
Yep.
like
Steal your shit.
and they'll steal your shit. So like I said no and she's like, "Yes, she can be re-uploaded." And I was like, "Okay." I wasn't even going to fight with it. But then get this. So if your character doesn't have a storyline, the way that I do my show, like if I don't have a storyline for your character, I'm not just gonna book them in a random match just to have them on a show. That's what
No,
WWE does. They'll randomly book somebody,
just to
or
work.
and they'll be like, they'll be like, oh, whatever. There's no storyline here, whatever. And then as a viewer, like as a person watching WWE, you're like, where's this headed?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. See, the thing
where's
with
this headed?
WWE, at least with WWE, and I'll defend them on this part. At least with WWE, you're actually paying someone like a real human being. You're actually paying them, and you're in some cases in a lot of cases, it's obviously their livelihood to go out there and work and wrestle.
Right,
But on a stream, these damn crazy characters, these damn pixels don't care if they work or not.
right,
You have to be putting someone out homeless if they don't work.
right. Exactly.
So
So it's kind
no
of like
problem.
one of those things. So it's like I created her, and she wasn't getting booked because I didn't have a storyline for her yet. I was just writing things. I had things in my mind that I had an idea, and then she stopped coming around. This person apparently stopped coming around because she was always asked, "Do I have a match?" And I'd be like, "No, I don't have a storyline for you yet, but I'm working on it. I got something cool for you." And then I'll think of something awesome. And get this, she stopped coming around, but she ended up being the longest reigning champion at that time. And she had a really cool storyline, but she didn't see any of it because she didn't want to stick around for it.
No, it's funny. I learned from UFC from doing that crap when people just not showing up. Actually,
Yeah.
for season 2, I'm implementing something that I learned in the Wrestling Empire, and I wish because the visual is a lot easier to understand visually.
Right.
In the Wrestling Empire, what I'm doing is I'm actually for season 2 of PWC, I'm actually going to use GM mode as a backdrop
That's going to be
to
sick.
to I'm going to use universe mode for the show. I'm going to use GM mode to see the success of each superstar. What I'm going to do is because you can sign contracts. If you're a new character, I'm gonna sign you up for if I can control contracts. Ideally, let's just say 10 weeks. I'll sign your character up to a 10-week contract. Guess what? If you don't come, if you're not a regular after 10 weeks, well, I guess your guy didn't get his contract renewed and he gone.
Right. Exactly.
But if you're more concurrent, then I'll start signing you to more long-term contracts, and your character stays longer. I'm doing it that way because of the fact that I want to make sure that you're not coming in because a lot of people want the clout. They want to get their
Right.
character on the screen. They want that clout. Now I'm doing it where, hey, you got to consistently show up. If your man wins, great. If you don't win, hey, what's it called? This is what it is. We'll work on upgrading them because you can use your channel points and your points from a contract. I'll be awarding points from contracts. So basically, you get a contract. Say it's in the game. It's GM mode says I have to pay them $10,000 for the contract, right?
Right.
I'll pay you 1,000 points, channel points. Do whatever the
Okay.
hell you want with those points.
That's kind of
Upgrade your
interesting how
character.
you're using the Twitch channel points to correlate with your universe. I never thought about doing that. That's
It's to
something.
protect. It's to protect. Well, it's to protect, and also I work. So I've done. I've done. I'm very good. Thankfully for me, with so much experience in marketing, working sales for so many years, I've correlated and worked in business deals with different businesses. So like undisputed belts. Me and them have a deal. All of my championships for PWC are unique creations that I've created. I've created the art. Like the artwork is 100% original. It's
Right.
no WWE copyrighted artwork. It's all my artwork that I've either paid for or done myself.
Right.
So that means that I can do whatever the hell I want with them. So guess what I'm doing? I'm making micro belts of my championships.
Right.
And if you earn enough channel points, you can get a micro belt for free.
There you
That's
go.
a physical memento of a championship micro belt. And then what I'm going to do, I'm gonna do some sort of season end tournament for a season, where I'm going to give away an actual replica of my world championship, of PWC's world championship.
That's sick. That's cool.
That's just from, but the thing is I have to make sure that you have to earn it. You can't just jump in. You gotta earn it.
Right.
And that's
Exactly.
where you gotta earn it. And the other way to earn it
And
is
I
by
feel like
watching.
there's a lot of people that just want to have their character, but then when I explain, when I explain to them, okay, you want your character, but you don't care. You don't care where they're put. Like to me, that's pointless. Like you don't care what story they're in. Like you don't care if there's any story. Like I want to give you a reason to care about your character. I don't want your character to just be like, poof, I'm here. Like, that's no, like no, I don't want to do that. I want to give you a
Exactly.
reason to cheer for your character. And
Exactly.
like
That's where
that's
it dictates. It has to dictate how you are. Like one guy, he gave me two characters, right?
yep.
His first character I debuted was in MMA. He has not come to my stream with much. The second
Right.
character, I was like, okay, I'll debut him eventually. I debuted him to 0-13. Not because
Right.
I'm doing anything, but because unfortunately, this is another thing where I think a lot of people in universe mode, when you create a universe mode league, you forget not every match has to be competitive. Not every match has to be, which is I've noticed that every match with a lot of these universe modes are 5-star classics, right?
Yep.
I've had guys that plow right through. I have specific guys that I've created that are just there to lose, to build up on the character. Because the fact of
Enhancement
the matter
talents.
is, enhancement talents. Because the fact of the matter is, I have records under everyone's name. How nice is it when you see a person that's 10-0 versus a person that's 11-0? Both these guys are undefeated. Now you're like, both these guys are real. Who the hell's gonna win? Versus if both these guys just showed up and had a match. No, I built it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
build it.
you built it up. And it's like obviously with the win-loss records. Now, here's the thing that I'm kind of concerned with
Yeah.
is that they have superstar mode, which is basically season mode, like here comes the pain type stuff,
Right.
where it's like you take a superstar and you only play as them, which is cool. My career universe right there. That's going to be something that I use. But I'm very concerned that the win-loss record is only in that part of universe mode.
I have that concern too. I have that same concern.
And
There.
like that would suck. I hope I'm wrong, but
I do.
it would be cool to have it. But yeah, it's like I think one of the other issues is that you have so many people wanting to become characters, and you have 100 call slots. So if you have somebody that hasn't been around for forever, like they're taking up a call slot to somebody else that could be around for longer, which is why I made that rule of like not having somebody around for having somebody around for at least 2 weeks. So
100%, because and you know what that also gives you? That also helps you because it brings standards. This is something I go back to the UFC thing. A lot of ESFL that made ESFL a big deal to me is the fact that you gotta have one. Eventually, they up their standards, but originally, listen, you gotta have standards. We have standards here. You have to meet our standards to join our league. The same way I did it with UFC. You gotta meet my standards. You have to be a follower you have to be a follower long enough to earn channel points, or to be able to pay out your channel points to create a character. You have to be a follower. You have to earn it. To me, that brings back it brings a rule. You gotta think about it. Something that's free doesn't really have that much value to you, right? You don't care. You don't care about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're asking like, okay, I paid $200 something dollars for this out of my own pocket. Yeah, of course. You're damn right. I'm gonna treasure that more than something that somebody just, you know,
Gauge. I mean, looking
gave
at the game
gave
system,
me.
if someone gave you the I don't know if you heard about this. There's a fitness system out, which is kind of like it looks like a PlayStation Move and a Nintendo Switch combined,
Yep.
where basically all this is just fitness games. It's $60 and it's garbage. And you're
Wow.
getting $60 worth of quality here. You're like, not doing it. But I got my Nintendo Switch over here. I use my Nintendo Switch a hell of a lot more than I use anything else. I use my Xbox more than I use anything else because I put value into it, and also that means there's value instilled inside of it. There's a
Right.
lot of value. I've had my Nintendo Switch since launch day, which is in a few days will be 5 years. My Switch has not given out on me yet because there's value
I
instilled
got
in
a
me.
Switch coming soon. I got one too. I actually bought one because when they announced Nintendo Switch Sports, I was like, oh shit.
Oh
Now
yeah, yeah.
I was like, now you're gonna. I didn't want a Switch. I had no reason to get one, and now you're giving me a reason to get one. So I got an OLED that's coming. And by the way, Marinara Halo had said that here in chat, he says, I remember one streamer that gave status to people that were there at the start of their channel, and then some of those same people turned on him randomly. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like you got to really pay attention to who you are friends with in this streaming world because no offense, but it's kind of a dog eat dog. But at the same time, you can coexist. But people think that for whatever reason, it's like a dog eat dog. Like people say like, oh, this person's stealing my viewers or this person. Now you can sit here and question Twitch's ethics as a company or whatever you're streaming on or whatever. You can sit here and we could talk about that for forever. But like in my book, it's our responsibility as people to bring the viewer back. And it's exactly what Mike just said. You have to have standards for your channel. If you just let viewers or anybody else, any Joe Schmo come in and say, F these rules, I'm taking over, like NWO Generation X running in and invading, and it's like, yeah, okay. Like,
It's funny. My mod takes rules way too seriously. It's funny because right now, it's just to kind of almost spoiling a little bit of my story. Basically, I have the Yakuza in my universe mode right now. Just ran there's two Yakuza goons just jumping around for no there's reasons haven't been popped up yet. Basically, it's two Yakuza goons, and for about 2 months now, they just show up randomly and just beat the hell out of someone. They interrupt matches. Sometimes they'll attack them during the entrance. Sometimes it'll be a backstage attack. It's basically just two Yakuza drones just jumping around and attacking people.
that's fun. That has to be fun for you because that's like random. That's something that you don't.
It's random. It's just completely random. Viewer has no idea what's going on. There is a story behind it, but he's like, that's not within the rules. They just can't. These thugs just can't do it. And I'm like, there's a difference between the rules of the show and the rules of the actual stream and the content itself. Bring
Right.
those rules in there because let me jump to your chat real quick. I was reading that. I remember one streamer again gave stats to people that were there at the start of the channel, and some of those same people turned on him randomly. That's some bullshit. And
Yeah.
Marinara, hey, that happens. I've seen it happen in the wrestling
All the time, man.
all the time. It's the community of wrestling. Listen, honestly, expect that. Expect it completely. I think that's why when I look at what's going on with the wrestling league, with the wrestling, the wrestling, just the scene of the WWE 2K game,
Mm-hmm.
when I actually study it and I see that, I see a lot of it's just, man, I don't trust these people.
Yeah, like yeah, it's exactly. Mariner Hill just said, "I've seen it happen on Sakate's stream." As Botch said, yeah, you know
Yep.
it's crazy because like if anything, um, I've taken now, especially now that I signed a contract. I think when it started to hit me that I was doing like and again, after I'm done, I'll follow up with the same question to you, Mike. And when did it, for me, it started to really hit me that I was actually doing something when I met guys like Chris Jericho. I met guys like Darby Allin. Um, and met wonderful ladies like Allie and Anna Jay. Um, I haven't met Paige, but became friends with her because of Twitch and everything. And all these wrestlers that are in the industry. Anna Jay is like the same age as I am. Like she's she's like 23. And I had the chance to meet her at the AEW event, one of the greatest wrestling shows I've ever been to. And Chris Jericho and all these people had one thing in common. Basically, the gist of it was that I belong in AEW with them, that they wanted me there. And it was, and honestly, it was just from me talking about my stream and talking about the character of Brian Outlaw and just simply just talking to them about it. And the fact that they wanted me there is huge, not only, and I think that's when it hit me that like you're onto something. Like, and then as soon as I got signed, I even have it in my Twitter bio, signed 129-22. Cause that was a huge deal for me, because at the end of the day, RCW is still going to continue. It's still going to be its thing. But the fact is, when you take something that isn't real, like take a figment of your imagination, but find a way to make it real, it's when it really hits you. So my follow-up question to you, Mike, is when did it really hit you that, doing this universe was worth it? And doing this whole thing was worth it for you? When did it really like connect?
When streaming really connected to me, was streaming content like this, because I actually originally, when I started streaming, I was gonna stream Super Smash Bros. Because I do tournaments Super Smash Bros. I play online quite often Super Smash Bros. I'm an elite level in terms of rankings. I'm at the elite level in the game, and I love the game itself. I swapped and I stopped playing games, started playing UFC, because I realized I want to be different, right? I don't want
Right.
to just. I don't want everyone plays games. Not many people commentate on games. I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. At first, when I started doing UFC, like I said, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work out. I ain't get nothing. Then that first big show I did, I remember that shit. It was yesterday, January 28th, 2019, right?
Yep.
I did this show. A bunch of people were watching. People were chatting. People were engaging. I was talking. I was like, holy shit, this worked. What it hit me was, again, that match I mentioned earlier. Champ got, or the challenge for the inaugural strawweight championship. Sidestep, caught with a hook, takeover. What's it called? A hip toss takeover right into a triangle choke. She tapped out. The
Chat went
reaction in the
crazy.
chat was ridiculous. I was like, you know what? That makes it worth it right there, because of the fact that, you know what? I ain't care about getting paid. I ain't care about getting any kind of money. I ain't care about none of that nonsense. All I cared about was the fact that chat got or that chat went hype, and that people enjoyed it. And guess what? Some people, one person in particular, they were angry. Some people were happy. The fact that I got someone angry, which I always enjoy getting someone angrier, happy. Not for like a dickhead thing or anything like that.
Yeah.
If I see someone get angry at what's happening on my stream, that means that they care. Because if you don't give a shit, you are not gonna get mad. But if you
Right.
care,
If you don't care, you're not gonna get mad.
that's when you can. That's what I know. When you care about, at the end of the day, what we do is it's pixels. It's pixels. The pixels don't know anything outside. Once the match ends, they don't walk to the back. They disappear. They're gone.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're pixels, and if you can get people to care about some pixels and stories that are happening within pixels, that's when you know, shit, I've done my job. And if you believe in it, and the people see, because people can see bullshit, other people can see
Right.
fake. But if you believe in it, they believe in it. I use an analogy for the Avengers. So when I look at wrestling, one of the biggest things I hate with wrestling now is that they constantly reference backstage stuff, like They'll call people by their real name. They'll reference WWE. They'll reference how someone was pushed. They'll reference, backstage stuff, right?
Right.
Here's I feel like that's the biggest detriment to wrestling and the biggest detriment to content when you reference the backstage stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, think about the Avengers. Think about even Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Avengers movie? Have they ever referenced, hey, Robert Downey Jr., can you come over here real quick? No, it's
Yeah.
not. Start. Or if you see Iron Man, another example, you see Thor flying around. Obviously, when he's flying, we know there's wires on there. Would it take you out of the movie if you saw the wire? You saw him hanging by a wire and still
Yeah.
flying.
It would take. It would be like, okay, like, yeah,
Okay.
that's.
See, exactly. Or if you saw Iron Man flying around and you saw that realistically, the Iron Man suit is just the top half up to like
Right.
under his chest is actual like the suit. The rest of it's CGI. If they removed all the CGI and just left that, would you be like,
I'd be like, what the hell am I watching?
because they believe in it, they want you to believe in it. That's the thing with wrestling
Right.
is that everyone knows the shit. Everyone knows by now, and I hate saying people hate hearing the word fake. It's a story. It's drama. They don't
It's
really
scripted.
hate each other. It's scripted drama. It's a scripted television show, and you should expect that because when you watch wrestling, when you watch any kind of wrestling, AEW, WWE, anything, when someone's on the top rope and you're laying on your back, common sense. If common sense, my mom talks shit about wrestling all the time. I was watching when I was younger. She's always like, "So why is that guy laying on his back, looking at the guy about to jump from like 5 feet up onto him?" Can't speak to my dog would be my little dog trying to get her off. Logically speaking, you'd be like, "Why don't you just roll out of the way?" Or when you're standing up, if someone does like when AJ Styles does the Styles Clash, for the
Yep.
most part, the person sees them coming, right?
Yep.
Why the hell would you stand there? You take common sense, but when you suspend, what the wrestling does so good, and what someone like Styles does, what someone like all wrestling does, that's really good, or should their strongest point should be make you forget the fact that what you're watching is a fake show, that these people are talking to each other and communicating this.
Right.
When you're watching it and you're like, damn, these motherfuckers are fighting. These motherfuckers are trying to kill each other. That's when you're bought in. That's where I am when I'm doing kind of the streams of the universe mode. Is I need to be bought into the fact that why is there a Yakuza person? Why the hell did Cole Quinn just get shot? What's going on here? It's that suspension of belief and buying in. And like you said with your characters, you believe what they're saying. So what happens is you come off as authentic. You're
Right.
coming off as authentic. You're coming off as real. So people watching, they gotta take it as, oh shit, okay, it's real. And now they're coming back and they're more invested in the story. But if you sound bored, then why the hell would anyone? I learned this from sales.
It's
If you
like,
sound
oh, there's a suplex.
like, if you're bored, why the hell should anyone else be excited?
Yeah. If I'm bored and I'm talking like this and it's really boring. Like, it's like, yeah. But one thing I will say is one of the coolest things that I ever did was I took Cyberpunk 2077
Okay.
and I made a story out of it where basically Sky Outlaw is possessed by the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and then she gets out of the possession of the Fiend and she's normal again. She starts seeing visions of herself in the future in 2077 as like a corpo agent, which is corpo agent is like one of the career paths that you can take in Cyberpunk. And there you play as you can choose male or female V, which is the main protagonist.
Okay.
And so I took all of the lines. There's these individual videos that were made with all of female V's lines in the game, even lines, even voice acting lines that she didn't use in the game, that weren't end up being used in the final cut of the game, and they put them in these videos. And so I took them, I MP3 converted them, and I did this thing where, like, my character Brian's trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my sister. Why is she seeing visions of stuff that hasn't happened yet? It's not 2077. So
Yeah.
why is she seeing all this stuff? So she doesn't, and there's these things called brain dances. in Cyberpunk, where somebody can basically, how it works is everybody's half computer, half human. And so basically, take your subconscious, for instance. Take your brain. Our brain is like a computer. It contains a lot of information, and it's like the internet. And upload all of that to a chip, to a computer chip. Okay. And that's what everybody has in Night City. They have a chip that contains all the information about them, their personality, everything. And so basically, a person can, what's called jacking in, plugging in to that person's brain, essentially, and downloading all the information that they need to know about them without even talking to them. And it's a game that makes you think that what if the world was like that? And, and so basically these brain dances, people can take the biochip of somebody. So, and they can plug it into this machine or plug it into this computer, and they could see somebody's dreams and see somebody's memories. But here's the catch. It's not just seeing. They can hear, feel, and see everything in that person's memory. So, for example, if you're watching a memory of somebody getting shot and that person got shot, you're going to feel like what it's like to get shot. And so basically Brian Outlaw is looking into the memories of his own sister. And that's where he meets V. And actually, there's a character creation where you can make your V look like however you want. And so I modeled Sky Outlaw's WWE 2K model after my V. And I made it look like her. And so he meets V for the first time, and he's like, and V is like a separate entity. It's being treated as like a separate person. And since V knows everything there is to know about Night City, he's trying to, talk with her, like saying, what do you know? What do you know? Like, can you tell me anything? And so I'm basically taking Jeremy Lee, who's an incredible voice actress. She's been in Gage in Borderlands, the character in Borderlands. She voiced Lucy in Fairy Tail, a character in Sword Art Online, the anime, and a bunch of other things. She's done a lot of good stuff. And she's a great, phenomenal voice actress. And so I basically took her lines, all these videos, part 6, part 7, and I find individual lines. I copy them and I paste them in a separate Audacity document. I save them as an MP3 file. And then I record my response to them. Like I improvise. So like, there's one line, because Brian Outlaw, he's the type of guy, he's going to hit on every single woman that he finds attractive. Doesn't matter who it is. And he's like very, very straightforward. I've always been straightforward. Like, cause I always believe if you're into a woman, tell her that you're into her, because otherwise you're going to regret it if you don't. And so it's kind of like one of those things where he's like, and he's seeing how much he can get away with. So he's kind of like saying like, he loves, and Jeremy Lee just nailed this role. Like, cause she has that sassy and sauciness to her voice where it's just like, she could be threatening somebody's life. There's a couple of times in the game where you make the decisions as the player, and you're basically threatening somebody's life. She could be threatening to blow somebody's head off with a pistol, and it still could sound hot. And so it's like, so in the character, Brian's like, he's always asking V if he wants to take her out to dinner or something like that. So he's hitting on her, and he's like, well, V, you're very, very feisty. And he's like, there's a reason why we chose you. And he's like, well, you know everything there is to know about Night City. Maybe let's stop the fighting, and then I'll take you out to dinner afterwards. And then she's like, are you always this forward? So I chose that line that Jeremy Lee had said, and I took that line and I put like a little bit of a pause in between lines. So it's like I'm having a conversation with Jeremy Lee in the voice acting booth as our
Absolutely.
characters. So it connects all of it. And that was like part of my career series. So I'm doing that as like a separate like crossover between those two games. And I just improvise everything. I improvise everything that I say, and then I just choose what V line I want to respond to and improvise everything from there. And a lot of people seem to like that. That seems to be a really fun series. And V originally wasn't going to be a part of it. Keanu Reeves actually plays a character in the game,
Yeah.
and he plays this terrorist. He plays this terrorist rock star douchebag, and so Brian's trying to learn everything about Night City. So he's asking V about Johnny and Pan Am, Judy, characters that you meet in the game. And I'm going to have Johnny, and I have this video of all of Keanu Reeves' lines in the game. And I'm going to have Johnny introduce himself over to Brian and see who plays the bigger douchebag. And so there's like a conversation between V and Brian and all of it. So it creates this story. It makes you more involved in the sky, and it makes you more involved in the story, even though it's a completely separate thing. I was able to take two games that are completely unrelated to one another. They are like Cyberpunk is an action RPG game. That's what it is. WWE is a sports simulation game. That's
Exactly.
literally what it is. It's
You
two
can make it
completely
really,
different things.
but you can combine it. There's different ways to combine it. I can buy hell. My literally the idea for a few of my characters came from Sims.
Right.
I just made a Sim character of fighting. Cause I wanted to, because she was an athlete. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it this way. And then she comes home went from MMA to wrestling. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good to combine different characters, different eras into something.
Right.
It's a very good deal to do.
It creates an amazing story. So I think a good way to wrap this up is for anybody that has an idea to create their own universe, or I don't know, create their own thing, whatever it is. Take something like UFC, for instance, make their own like Fight League, or take something like WWE, make their own eFed out of it. What advice would you have to them as people who haven't used universe mode to its full potential, and people that are crapping on universe mode, and as aspiring creators? What advice would you give to those people?
Oh, all right. So important things. I'm actually going to circle back to it. I want to circle back, ask Chad a question here. But the most important thing I'm going to say is use creativity. I think of the fact that there's a few things you have to remember on Universe Mode. One, you have access to a lot of different things here. You have access to a lot of different systems. You have access to. Oh, I'm trying to think of everything in there. What
Rivalries.
9 title slots, 3 rivalry slots per show. If you have multiple shows, hey, you can throw more rivalries in there. 3 title slots. You have a full calendar that's very, pretty decent calendar to give you anything you want there. But you also have, you have your sliders. You have the ability to customize the matches you have. I think one of the biggest things is that you look at Universe Mode and you're like, all right, 8 matches. I hate to have 8 matches. In all honesty, use them. You can use matches to develop and build stories. That's what I would suggest. Some
Mm-hmm.
matches, like I'll be honest with you, some of my matches are matches, but you don't see it, and people don't realize it until I'm streaming it. They're backstage brawls, or I have a match where literally it's just an entrance, and someone comes out and jumps them from behind. The match never actually happens. Use those extra match slots to your advantage to build a story and consistently build a story. Another thing for sure is, and this is the more important thing, this is universal. Um, what's it called? And thanks, Marinara Halo.
Huh?
Thank you so much.
Oh, there, yep.
Um, what's it called? But another thing is have fun with it. Don't be afraid. The thing is, it's wrestling. Wrestling is a little silly sometimes. You don't have to take it too seriously. Match after match after match. Again, I had someone get shot
Right.
I had someone get shot on a wrestling show. That is absurd. That is absurd. Even by real wrestling
Well,
standards.
actually, Impact did that too.
Impact did
Uh,
shoot someone. Yes, I heard Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette still hates them for that.
eh,
What's it called? I've heard, but it's absurd. I had someone get shot with literally in the background. All you see is a guy in all dressed up in all black. One of my viewers I was watching yesterday, he runs his own league. He's like, "That's Herb Dean, the UFC, the UFC referee." I'm like, "That ain't Herb." I'm like, "Oh my god, it's Herb Dean." He actually threw it out there. He's like, "It's Herb Dean. He has dreads. It has to be Herb Dean." And they're like, "No, Herb Dean's not that butt. Or Herb Dean's not that short." Then another guy's like, it's the other guy that just competed and lost his match. He's mad. He shot him." And then another viewer was like, it's the Yakuza people." I'm like, I don't even know what the hell it is. That's great. It's a story. It's so stupid, but people are going to what people now can figure it out and not have to roll with it. Have fun with it. If you want to have someone get shot, have them get shot. If you want to have someone get, you have the ability use tools outside of universe mode. You have highlight reel. If you want to toss someone off the back, I don't know if it'll be in the next 2K game, but if you want to toss someone off the back of a semi truck,
do it.
record it from down. Move the camera under the semi truck so you don't see who tossed them.
Right.
Then it's like, who the hell tossed so and so off the semi truck and tried to kill him? Someone tried to end his life. Someone tried to end his career.
I actually did that where I brought one of my characters back, and I had Marielle Rogue. She was one of the characters that was a rival of the Outlaws back then, in season 4, and I actually had her toss Paige off of the semi truck, and Paige and Brian used to be in this love storyline all the way back in season 2. And then in the promo, I actually was talking about, whoa. I was like, I think I said something like, "Easy, Marielle. The followers on her Twitch channel are going to want her to come back." Like something like that. And like, I ended up, creating something really cool. I ended up using like Paige's real life as a streamer and incorporating that into the story. But yeah, I think my advice to everyone, to wrap this up here, I think my advice to everyone is basically what Mike just said. Have fun with it. There's actual programs. DaVinci Resolve is a video editing program that I use. It's a free program. You can pay for the studio version, but it's a free program. Watch some YouTube videos. If you don't know how to do something, there's plenty of YouTube videos that teach you how to do that. If you don't know how to use highlight reel, to make promos for your characters and do the text boxes, there's a video on my channel. You can enter the command YT in chat, exclamation point YT, and that'll gain you access to my YouTube channel. And there's a video that says how to make promos in 2K19. It'll work the same way with 2K22. They haven't really done anything to the highlight reel. It'll be the same, pretty much. And
yeah, from what I've seen, it's going to be the same.
So it's pretty good.
Brought back because it wasn't in 2K20 apparently.
Yeah, it was pretty bad in 2K20, so like you couldn't really do anything with it. So, definitely experiment with it. Experiment with what the game gives you. Now, I hear the common excuse, I don't have a creative mind, I can't do it. Well,
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But second of all, to help out with that, I will say this. I'll give my last piece of advice here, and that is start small. Make a list of dream matches that you want to have. Seth Rollins, Kenny Omega, AJ Styles. Stuff that, because I know people that have never watched New Japan or certain wrestling promotions. So, if it's a match that you haven't seen, or a match or WWE AEW crossover that you would love to see, if you want to do Keith Lee versus Moxley, I really hope AEW does that in real life now that Keith Lee's with AEW. But if you want to do Keith Lee versus Moxley, you can do that. If you want to do Seth Rollins versus Keith Lee, you can do that. So, start small, make a list, and have individual ideas and figure out a way to make them work. And if you need help, like I said, YouTube it. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, including myself, that have videos for you guys to be able to watch so that you guys can enhance your universe mode. And I can tell you, if you use universe mode to its full potential, like we've been saying all this stream, we've been telling you guys stories, we've been starting a conversation, and yes, universe mode definitely needs improvements on the core surface. But if you use just what the game gives you, there's a lot that you can do, and the only limit is your imagination right up here. So, that's pretty much all there is to it. Thank you guys for joining us today. I appreciate FightMikes taking his time to join us today. In case you missed any of this will be on my Twitch VOD. I'll be getting it and posting it on YouTube there so that you guys can see it on the YouTube as well.
And one thing I did want to leave off with before we left, another thing, I want to jump on, piggyback what you were saying there. There's so many YouTube videos and stuff like that. Another thing, I'll be honest, I did it with me. It works with me. When you start having viewers watching, right? When you start having viewers interact with your viewers, give them ideas. Honestly, my universe mode, season 2, and even parts of season 1, a lot of this has grown because of the fact of my viewers giving me ideas, and then when your viewers give you ideas, it helps. And also, I don't call it ripping off. Use callbacks. There are so many callbacks from wrestling history you can throw. Not callbacks, but use different storylines or remix them in your own way. I've watched. I'm pretty good at just memory. I've watched so many storylines. Kind of what I mentioned at the beginning of the stream. My league, the concept of my world title situation was literally stolen from not even stolen, was literally taken from an idea that TNA does with their X Division Championship. I have never watched TNA, a full episode of TNA Impact ever, but I've learned and read about that and saw that's actually not a bad idea. How can I remix it to make it your own? Make it your own deal. You don't have to be 100% original because unfortunately, with professional wrestling, nothing's original because it's all been done already. And one way or another, every storyline in some way or another has been done.
Right.
So same thing with universe mode. One way or another, every single storyline has been done in some way. You just remake it to make it your own and make it unique.
Right. And that's really all it is. Obviously there's been tons of family turns with the Outlaw family. I can think of a bunch of WWE storylines where that works. But, you just got to have fun at the end of the day. And honestly, you don't have to be loud and obnoxious like I am, where I'm like, oh my God, there's a suplex, or, something like that. But if any of my videos do help you, definitely consider telling me that, because that means a lot.
Throw some comments in there.
Because throw some comments down there. Because I do those videos. Like, I have a video where I talk about sliders, like match sliders.
That's weird. I don't know how the heck I didn't follow. I think I followed your other one. I don't know how I follow this one. I followed before. That's weird.
Well, now you do got them.
I got them both. Perfect.
There you go. But, have fun with it. Ultimately have fun with it. Don't limit yourself. Yes, it takes a lot of work to do all that stuff with highlight reel. But trust me, highlight reel is a lot easier putting 30 seconds of video together than it is than you may think. It's a lot easier than you may think. A lot of it is just personal preference. A lot of it is just figuring out how to use it. And once you do, it becomes fun. Trust me. Creating the In the Cloud segment with the interview segment, all it is, Sky stands there for 30 seconds doing the intro. Then Sky introduces the guest. And then when Sky asks questions, it cuts to a highlight reel scene of Sky's face. And then there's a text box, fade in and fade out transitions. Fade in and fade out transitions. And she asks the question, and then it pans over to the other person, the interviewee. And then the other person answers the question, same old, and it's usually 3 questions. You want to keep those segments short and sweet. You don't want to keep them that I have like a rule, maybe like a 3 to 5 minute rule. That's kind of the rule that I live by. the 3 to 5 minute rule of each segment, because you don't want a segment to drag on, because then you're gonna lose people. So you want something, unless it's like a promo, and then it could drag on for a little bit, but it's got to be a captivating promo. It's got to be something, and honestly, just most of all, like I said, know your characters, know your superstars, because most people use created superstars. So if you have an idea for a character, like, think about how they would say something. A lot of it is like with Brian Outlaw. That's what a lot of it is. It's me. Obviously, you don't have to actually record yourself. However, if it does help you,
That was comfortable for you, exactly.
do it, because it's one of those things where it's like figuring out a way to make yourself more comfortable, and it is perfect. And it'll help. Like for me, switching from the voice. See, I can go from this is my regular voice to the Brian Outlaw voice. See, it's that easy. And that's because I've done it for like 3 to 4 years. So, yeah, I hate it when people use finishers as strong grapples. Like, that's, also, yeah, when you're creating a superstar, try the best of your abilities to not make finishers strong grapples, because hands down, nobody's going to use those wrestlers, or somebody's going to end up changing it anyway. But most of all, have fun with it. Have fun. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed this today. I really liked having FightMikes here with me, because, him and I are kind of on the same wavelength. And, it was good to have, his perspective, and good to have, somebody else, share their ideas on what they do with universe mode. Again, we've had a lot of discussions like this on stream before, but that's when I'm playing a game, and I haven't had a time just to sit like this and just to sit here and talk. But anyways, you guys can catch me. Obviously, I streamed on Twitch today because it was the most easiest thing to do. But you guys can catch me over there on Glimish. Usually that's where I'm at. And you also can
links in there too, real quick. Obviously, you can throw them on if you want to, but here's another link for you. I actually just got this. Actually, was done while we were airing right now. The editor,
it actually published the article there.
The editor actually published the article. The editor was going through it. The site editor, site owner, he was going through. He actually published the article. He was cleaning it up. He wanted to snip certain things up, like he felt it was too long, so he wanted to snip some stuff out. So an interview with Botch and with a few other content creators talking about their plans for universe mode. This is just the first of many. We're talking about doing more of these in the future to kind of talk. But it's actually my second official article, as I did put a obviously I'm the one that updates the championship article here, but my first official article right there on the Smackdown Hotel. Go on, you can go ahead and check it out right there. Also have here. Let me jump back to another article. If you want to hear my thoughts on the game and a few other angles here, we have another article here where we talk with all of our staff right here, kind of talking about our plans for my gym or our plans, what we're excited for 2K. There's a lot going on there. But Bosh, great conversation. Obviously, there's a lot to go on. I think I learned a lot. Hopefully, you learned a lot here. Hopefully, the viewer, you're watching, learned a lot. For sure. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the time.
No problem. It's good to get a conversation going. And for you guys, we're going to be starting. 2K22 comes out in 2 weeks. So, I'm definitely going to use different things like the win-loss record in 2K22, and a bunch of other different things. Here's some things before I sign off here. Here's some things that you guys can definitely expect from me as 2K22 releases. So we won't be doing RCW for a while because I have to create 3 arenas. And I have to do at least on my end, I have to do 6 to 7 superstars. And then I have to wait for Young Sin and Sakate to make their superstars. So it's gonna be a bit. But however, I will be doing a stream on Glimish, on WWE 2K22, kind of giving my first impressions of the game. I will be doing it Tuesday, March 8th, when the game actually drops for early access. I will be streaming it and giving you guys my thoughts on the game. I'm walking in as blind as anybody else is. Obviously,
I wanted to cheat because at first we thought we were going to get an early copy, some early copies, but 2K decided not to give us early copies this year, give us a chance to play it early.
Rip.
They only give it to the YouTubers, and not all the YouTubers because Dankoffs didn't get one.
That sucks.
Dankoff did not get early access to it, but a few of the Macho got early access to it. 101 I think got early access to it. A few other people did. I'm sure Dankoffs will probably get access to it early too, but not us, not this year. So it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. But you guys are gonna get a first impressions, an honest first impressions, and it's gonna be from a content creator standpoint. I will say that. I'll put a disclaimer there because obviously I make content on this game. So stuff that a casual wrestling fan that wants to play a game of wrestling, they're obviously not gonna give two shits about probably half of the shit that I care about just because they're a casual wrestling fan, and that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. And that's exactly it. Everyone does get mad when they lose and then they leave. It's definitely something.
It's
part of the game. Part of the game. But thank you so much, Mike, for joining me today. And I definitely enjoyed our conversation. I hope everybody else did too as well. It's a fun conversation. It's definitely something. And if anything, 2K22 is a foundation for the future, I think. If anything, at this rate,
100%. I'm really ready for the future with 2K. I'm really ready for the future of this league. Again, I think I've been looking again just the size of UFC 4, the size of UFC's community, and the fact that a lot of it is just by just groups working together. I think that's one thing that needs to be done with these groups.
Right.
Is just work together, and we'll find some common ground. I think we'll talk in a second. I have an idea. Our conversation and just looking at it, giving me a crazy idea. So I want to see.
All right, but thank you guys so much for joining us. In case you missed any of this, it'll be on my YouTube channel or on the VOD. I'll definitely want to download this and get this on the YouTube channel as well. I think it would definitely open up a conversation just about universe mode and, put exposure to the smaller creators out there like myself and plenty of other people.
Absolutely. We're all trying to grow here. We're all trying to grow together.
Yeah, we're all trying to grow together. That's exactly it. So, anyways, definitely consider giving me a follow over there on Glimish. Make an account. It's pretty damn easy. And, it's fun. And we thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
Take care.